me see who is here. I have Jared, Jimmy, Luke, and myself. So we're all here. Well, welcome to the first work session meeting of 2022. Let me look at the agenda. So seeing that we're all here, I'm gonna be calling the meeting to order. And so this will be the Mayor and Council meeting for virtual work session for Tuesday, January 18, 2022. I'll do a quick roll call. Councilmember Chesick.
I'm here.
Councilmember Stofus. I guess he's here.
I'm here, sorry.
Councilmember Jimmy Tardo.
Here.
All right, perfect. And I'm here, so it means the whole council and mayor are present. So we have reached quorum. So I will be calling this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. We will be doing our review of the agenda. Can I please ask our vice mayor to read through the agenda? Go ahead. And council, if you have anything you need to move, change, or delete, after he reads it, you could let us know what you need to remove or delete from it, or if there's something you're requesting to add. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jimmy.
1, call to order. 2, review of agenda. 3, presentation on Memorial Park project. 4, ARPA discussions. 5, pothole update. 6, mayor's letter of support for sustainable Maryland state funding bill. 7, review of status of committees. 8, charter review commission. 9, review of rolling agenda items. 10, update on USPS lack of mail delivery. 11, discussion on outdoor fire pits. 12, presentation about minutes from the December 21st and January 4th meetings. 13, adjournment.
All right, thank you so much, Jimmy. Council, I need to know whether you're making a motion to approve, or does anybody needs the floor to the lead or request any additions to this agenda? Jimmy, your mic is open. Does that mean you need to delete or add or request an add to this agenda?
No, it's fine. I mean.
Okay, Jared, Luke?
I'm good.
Jared?
I'm good as well, Selena. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So seeing that we're all in agreement, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been properly moved in second. Any objection? Any abstentions? Hearing none, this agenda has been approved unanimously by mayor and council. Thank you guys so much. Moving on to the first item on the presentation of Memorial Park project. The LID Center will make a presentation to mayor and council on the Memorial Park project. Luke, I am gonna cede the floor to you because this is the project that you have been leading. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So folks may need a bit of a history lesson here. Man, going back about, I don't know, when it's 3-4 years ago, maybe, we started this process. We had several community meetings that were very well attended, and a design was agreed upon by sort of residents and or those who were involved, and then the mayor and council adopted it. That was designed by the University of Maryland, their landscape architecture program. This design, then we went out and got some grant money for it. We lobbied DHCD and we got $200,000 from them. We got another 100,000 from ATHA. And so we had to turn the plans into engineered drawings that we could go to construction on. And that is the work that LID and EcoSite have been helping us on. And so they have done a really good work on that. There is some unfortunate elements of the original design that it looks like are not going to be able to happen because of underground electrical and gas lines. But there are more stormwater improvements that they've discovered to allow us to make, which will help residents there on Perry Street and the building there that has Penny Royal and the apartments and in the wine bar and stuff. So I will turn it over to Mike. I don't know if it's you or David to talk us through where we're at now.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name's David Miller. I'm the Director of Engineering at the LID Center. And my colleague Susie Cho is here. She's our landscape architect, so she'll be the one kind of walking everyone through the design. And then I'll be here to answer kind of technical questions or any questions about permitting and things like that. So take it away, Susie.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone looking healthy and happy.
So, Susie, it's a pleasure to have you here as well as David. We cannot, well, I personally cannot hear you. Can you speak up a little louder?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
A little bit better. Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us today. It is our pleasure to present to you the final concept of the Mount Rainier Memorial Park project. And if you can give me a couple seconds, I will share my screen with you so that you can see the concept plan. All right. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is really the culmination of all of the efforts that has been poured into this project, and we have worked with Luke and Mr. Karosh to come up or talk about this throughout the timeline, and we've looked at all of the documents from University of Maryland, all the bid documents, and so a lot of information have been processed, and this is our we would like to call it our modified version of the streetscape concept. So there are two main portions that I'd like to talk about today. Although the entire triangle block is going to be redone, there are a couple items, the couple areas that we would like to focus on and have your input. And that is the Memorial Park, as well as the streetscape improvements. So the first area that I'd like to talk about is the Memorial Park. And currently, it is a very passive park with some nice shading and grass areas. There are patchy grass areas due to potential sun exposure. So it is definitely a space that has a lot of potential, and we'd like to change that and make it a little bit more lively by adding a little bit more programming and bringing people in. So this area is actually one of the areas that had, unfortunately, a lot of the design elements from the UMD students taken that we had to reconsider due to some utilities setbacks as well as right-of-ways from state highway. And this I would like for David to jump in if anyone has any questions about it a little bit further into our presentation. But for now, I'd like you to focus on the Memorial Park. The idea is to really elevate what currently is there and improve the grounds, improve vegetation, and improve the overall feeling of wanting people to come in and congregate in the space. So some of the materials and site features that we've incorporated here have been adopted by the plans from University of Maryland, and some surfaces such as decomposed granite. It is a really nice, it has a very nice texture when you walk on it. It feels a little crunchy, and the little pieces of granite, it kind of sparkles in the sun as well. So that is also permeable, as well as safe for kids and people of all ages. So it's a really nice park setting material for the ground, and that you can see in the light gray over here. And the idea is to stroll through when you're waiting for your table at the restaurants, when you're waiting for your Uber home, when you're hanging out with friends, meeting people. This is the area that ideally would be where people would say, hey, meet me at the Memorial Park. And, everyone would know exactly where that is. So we took some of the history and context of the current Memorial Park, and although the memorial is scheduled to be removed, we'd like to keep that sentiment still in the space, and we can do that by incorporating some boulder seatings and having plaques that can, put in writing information about the history and facts, or anything that really tells the story of Mount Rainier and this memorial park. And with that boulder seating, we have some more natural elements for the benches. We wanted to really give this a natural feel, but also pay homage to the industrialness. So just a weighty wood with iron detail is one of the details that we've went with, and some flagstone pavers to traverse around. And it is a small area, so we hope that this, with the variety of seating and just nice landscape gardens, this could be a really inviting space. So the one thing that I wanted to talk about, and please feel free to chime in, Luke or David or Mike, are the challenges that we've had with being able to fit in the original intent of this serpentine wall from the University of Maryland. So as you can see here, the colored lines are the underground utilities, and the red dash line is the setback that we have to honor with the regulations. So anything that is within these two red lines is something that's just not within our jurisdiction to put a wall there. And because of this setback, as well as this SHA right-of-way, I guess the best or the most appropriate and how should I say, the improvements that we really wanted to make for the circle, there's just a lot of challenges in this corner, as you can see.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me jumping in,
Yes,
just
David.
Susie.
Sure.
Go ahead, David.
So one of the issues with the wall is a wall like that is going to need footers, and so you have to dig down deep, pour concrete so that the wall is structurally sound. And because of the utilities in that area, we wouldn't be able to do that. We could potentially do some type of surface seating on that very wide area of the sidewalk or somewhere in this area if that was desired by the town, but we wouldn't be able to do anything that needed like a deep footer because of the utilities underground. And then as far as the circle goes, so we've looked into the history of this project, and the State Highway Administration actually constructed this entire circle area, part of which is on Mount Rainier right-of-way, Rainier right-of-way, and part of which is on State Highway right-of-way. So while we may be able to make changes in this area, we don't really have carte blanche to do whatever we want. We'd have to go through a special state highway review process, which is kind of lengthy. And so in our concept, we elected not to propose any changes there. Now, if it is something that the council is interested in, what we can do is start a conversation with State Highway Administration and kind of explore options. The least difficult of those might just be like a new surface, like new pavers or something. But that could potentially add two things, one of which is an additional review process, which could take longer for us to get all the permits we need. And two, because of the size of this project, we have stormwater management requirements. And so as it stands now, we can just treat all of the stormwater on site that is required with our preliminary estimates. If we add an additional area, that could require us to do what they would call off-site mitigation. And that would mean we'd have to find another project somewhere else in the city and get a permit for that project concurrently with this permit. And long story short, it makes it much more complicated. So again, it is an option. I just want to let everyone know that if we do start messing around in that area, it could impact the timeline and potentially the cost. And if anyone has any questions, I can take them now or after Susie's done with the rest of her presentation.
So, Council, do you guys want to just shake your head if you guys want? Do you guys want to wait until the end of the presentation, or do you have? Or you guys? I think we should just wait at the end of the presentation.
I agree.
Take notes of what is it that you guys want to ask, so that way we can move forward with the presentation. So, move on with the presentation, and we'll ask the questions at the end. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
All right, so the next part of the proposed design is the streetscape element. And, one thing that we've kind of don't have the opportunity to do in the circle is what we can do in this walkway and pathway and hardscapes. And so we really try to look at the different spaces and how changing of the patterns of and the textures and the materials of the hardscape can affect your perception of space. So if you see this brown color, that is the Dublin cobble pavers. So this one is going to be the unit pavers that delineate the spaces in around the restaurant outdoor patio space. And here we have the iron rails that is an original from the UMD students' design that will be the edging of the pavers over here. So it really adds in that old antique touch and nice detail in combination of just making it delineating the space as for people, and having these little light bars in the walkway that are set in ground, flush with the ground, with solar powered lighting, just adds to the railroad motif. And then once you get closer to this corner of the southwest corner of the site, changes in the pavement, you'll notice that it is more of this colorful, vibrant paving pattern that has a similar look of the cobbles, but just more modern, a little bit more today. And you can see the transition of how this site has changed over time. So that's the idea. Some inspiration for outdoor furniture for the restaurants. We just kind of thought it'd be nice to throw in there is this industrial style or the sleek modern style. Just either way, I think it's going to be a really nice mixture of the two to bring everything together, as well as some pedestrian lighting and stormwater elements along the perimeters in these blues.
And just to touch on the stormwater, because I know for the tenants and for the building owner, this has been an issue a lot recently with flooding on the north side of this building. One of the things we're doing is we're raising that sidewalk up about 6 inches or so, depends on the place. So rain falls, it will drain appropriately towards the street and not into the basements. And along with that, we were installing a new curb inlet, and we're redoing this one that's on the corner, one that'll allow for a proper handicap ramp, and as well, it will limit that flooding in the area. And with that, we'll be abandoning a very old clay pipe that's in here and redirecting the stormwater across the street. So really hoping that we can kind of fix up that back area and make it more usable. And then with our stormwater devices, Susie and the engineering team worked really hard to try to preserve as much pedestrian and seating space as possible while still meeting those stormwater requirements.
So I'm just going to go back to the main plan, and we'll take any questions from here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you guys for all the work. And I definitely want to point out for our resident, our business area, specifically our restaurants right there. The pavement area originally was supposed to be added, was supposed to be deleted, right? And it's staying as is. So definitely it's a good thing for people to be pointed out. I know we got some of the feedback from our restaurants that it was important for them to be able to have the seating area, and it's there. Okay, so Luke, I'm gonna go with you first. Go ahead, Luke.
Thank you. Susie, on the park, the crushed, so I'm looking at the park, the white space that's sort of makes up the majority of it. Will that just, is that, that's going to be all decomposed granite then, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's the decomposed granite. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then, you know, my recommendations would be that the benches have backs on them to just,
Okay.
it's more comfortable for folks to sit on. If we do want people to congregate, you can only sit so long on a backless bench.
Especially old people.
Sure.
Yeah, right. And my wife would yell at me. She's a physical therapist, and she goes into parks and sees backs without benches, and she just gets really upset. So I have to make that comment on her behalf. And then the other potential option, you know, one of the neat things about the UMD design was it sort of that circle. I understand it's a lot of it's SHA, and it makes sense that what you all said and not being able to touch that. I don't want to delay this project any longer. But the neat aspect of it is it sort of pulled away some of that circle there is very, like, it wastes a lot of space. It's a big area. And I'm wondering if the green medium shade tree that is on the far right of your design in the park, that one right there, I'm wondering if there's a way to pull that out a little bit further to just see if the park can take up a little bit more, can get a little bit more of that space there. And then maybe the pathway could, you know, also sort of, I'm doing it with my mouse. If you go to, yeah, right there, you could sort of go in between those two medium trees to, yeah, like over here. Like you could almost go over closer to the circle with a meandering path. If there could be if you could pull the tree out further, just to expand the park, you know, more. So there's more green space so that when you're sitting in it, it feels like it's bigger than it is now because, and you feel more set back from the traffic on Rhode Island Avenue.
Absolutely. Unless, David, do you think that there's any engineering conflicts? I think we can definitely expand this over and kind of reduce this impervious area a little and replace it with the green.
Yeah, that would actually reduce our stormwater requirements. So that's a double
Yeah, and
Great.
maybe you could do, you know, around the, instead of it having all be decomposed granite there, maybe around the trees, you could have a bunch of native wildflowers or native fruiting bushes, so that when you're sitting in the park, there's a little bit of a barrier, a natural barrier between you and the traffic on the circle as well.
Yes. Actually, if we're able to zoom in a little bit closer, we do
Oh, there you
have
go.
a great amount of garden beds kind of
Yep.
flanking and anchoring the space. So we can definitely move that over.
Great. That's my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a really great recommendation, and we will definitely modify it.
Okay, perfect. Staying in Ward 1, Jimmy, followed by Jared.
Yeah, I want to thank Jack and team and Susie and everybody for the plans. So my kind of question was, originally a lot of these plans were done before we actually had an active restaurant there. And I was wondering, and I'm not a conceptual person, whether the flow from the, you know, from the park to the kind of the restaurant flows well. And if you think it flows the way it might, you know, way it might have been done before, as opposed to a barrier, so where people, you know, who are outside can, you know, don't see it as like a barrier. I mean, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but
Yeah.
the plans were originally done when there was nothing really there, right? And now we have a kind of active commercial area there, and you know, on the corner. And I was wondering, does the park kind of flow into that? Is there any design things that have changed as a result of that?
Yes, absolutely. No, I understand your question 100%. So we did take and we actually, it was a good coincidence that having this restaurant patio, you know, be one of our not a challenge, but it's, you know, definitely blocked off from the design. That worked well with us, coincidentally, just from the hardscape standpoint, and also the amount of space that we have for, you know, like queue for restaurants when it gets busier. And I think we could just, the hardscape element, how from the memorial garden, it's, you know, giving homage to the history of Mount Rainier, and that plays along with the antique cobble stones that we're using as a pavers. And then if you know, make your way over as you're waiting, and say you just came out of the restaurant, you can, you know, go into the park and sit down for coffee or wait for your ride, or you can just stroll down through the railroad walkway. And then just, it's the transition of the old and the new, playing off of just the hardscape. And oops, sorry.
And Susie, I can jump in.
Sure.
We were actually,
No, go ahead.
we were in, and I think this is what Mayor was getting at. Garrett and company over there at that the proprietors of Penny Rail Station, they reached out to us after the original design and after they started operating, because the original design had actually taken away some of their patio space. And so they asked us to see if we could give that space back. And so this design represents accommodating their request. So the original design had, they were nervous that it was going to block off some of the signage facing Rhode Island Avenue. And with this design as is, you can see the only thing that's going to, there's nothing now that's going to block that signage. It's going to be the stormwater inlet there, but that's not going to have any trees in it. And the existing patio will stay the current size. So, and then Mr. Kamali, I know we were on an email chain with Garrick and Mark and everybody there. I'd recommend maybe after this meeting, emailing them on that email chain, and perhaps we can give them a demo of, just walk them through the new design to see if they have any concerns.
Sure, will do.
We'd be happy to.
Thank you, Luke. Jimmy, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And I think that's the reason why I mentioned the patio being there. The other thing is like, just to make it clear, it is their patio, but it's a city land and territory, and we accommodated to make sure they could have the patio there. So that has been an extra effort on our behalf to make sure we're in communication with the business, and definitely 100%. One of the things what I was going to request as well was these plans be sent to them to make sure that we're all on the same page and they know what to expect, and for us to have feedback on it as well. Luke, thank you so much for going the extra lengths to make sure that this is happening as well when it comes to communication, okay? Jared, go ahead.
Hey, this is Jarrett. No, I just want to thank you folks for coming on tonight and going through this extensive presentation. It's I've heard a lot talked about this. I hadn't seen in completion, so it's really helpful. And thanks to everyone that's been working on this well before I came on council earlier this year. Just a quick question for clarity, so I understand what's the right turquoise along 33rd Street, and those are those like rain gardens? The stormwater.
Yeah, they're.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, those are stormwater BMPs. We've made sure on 33rd to give step out space for vehicle parking. So it won't interfere with the vehicle parking. They'll be able to access the sidewalk appropriately.
Yep.
Those lines that you see that are kind of brownish colored will be steel plate covers so that you can walk across. And they won't have any, as mentioned before, they won't have any trees or anything in them, so they'll be fairly low plants.
Okay, and then can you back out the big BMP, the one on Rhode Island? Certain maximum kind of square footage you needed to attain for that site, or like seems kind of a, I guess, central placement relative to the continuity of public space between the corner and then further up on Rhode Island.
Right. So yeah, this is currently it's all a grassy area. And Susie, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe part of that patio is grass right now. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, you cut off. Oh, this. I'm sorry, you cut right off.
Sorry, to the south west, that part of that patio area is currently grass. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Right. So what we did with the design was we maximized the amount of patio area that we possibly could, while still leaving enough room to treat stormwater for our stormwater requirement. So what's going to happen is this BMP will treat a significant portion of this patio area, the sidewalks, and part of the roof. And that's really what's allowing us to make these improvements and still comply with regulations.
Okay, and then can you back out a little bit?
Sure.
And where is the sidewalk then on this?
This is
I'm sorry?
the sidewalk right now. So this shade
Up there.
is the concrete sidewalk,
Okay.
and then this browner shade is going to be the cobble pavers. So it's still the same sidewalk. It's just kind of delineate. It's giving, transitions in the hardscape. And then over here is the modular pavers. These two.
Oh, sorry. Can you point with your?
Sure. It's very similar to if you were to see this concrete sidewalk next to the modular pavers, and then transitioning into a more.
Sorry, if you can go back to the main. Where is the remaining sidewalk? Where is the sidewalk on Rhode Island Avenue? That's what I'm having a hard time.
Right. Yep. It's right here, just under the trees.
So, Jarrett, the sidewalk will be where you see those iron rails.
Yeah.
Those are rails built into the ground. that are going to mirror the historic street trolley line. So the grant for
Okay.
so they're going to be the borders of the sidewalk. So when you walk on the sidewalk, you'll be walking on pavers the sidewalk will be bordered by the edging of the sidewalk will be iron rails.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. When I looked at this, it looked like the sidewalk was gone from there. So I apologize. I see it now. Okay, thanks.
I can see how you.
Yeah.
Thank
My
you.
apologies. Yeah.
Chair, do you have any follow-up question? And you guys need to understand we're over time, so I need you guys to be able to allocate X amount of time to continue.
Yep. I'm done, Selena. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, Luke, do we need, well, I haven't said nothing, so I will request at least unless you need more than 2 minutes or 3 minutes, Luke,
I think
what do you want to do?
5 minutes for just, I just have a couple more questions and I want to make sure.
Okay, so I will, there's been a motion on the floor for 5 minutes to be added to this. Is there a second? It's been properly moved in second. Any objections or abstentions? Hearing none, we're going to add 5 more minutes. So I'll go quickly. So no, definitely thank you. The other thing is we did mention sending this documents to Rainier Station. Can we make sure we're also sending them to Arrow Wine as well? I know they've done a beautiful job of taking care of their spaces and illuminating trees and different things like that. So it's good for them to also be involved and figure out what's going on here. When you guys talked about the north side, right on Perry Street, bring it back a little bit. So is there any plans to keep anything green back there as we are making the changes, or no? Because it's not very clear from this design, or maybe I'm not very clear on it.
As of now, so what exists is a 1 to 2 foot very narrow that I will generously call grassed area, and I think there's one tree in there. One of the issues is that there's not a lot of soil volume for the tree and it's not doing very well. Because it's more of just a walking area, it's not the business frontage end, it's not along Rhode Island, it's not as visible. We were proposing just to make it a wide sidewalk, which may help with their deliveries, things like that. It'll allow us to easily grade it and make sure that we're not getting flooding and mud into their back area. If we do have a strong desire for some more green elements, though, I'm sure we could incorporate them.
Yeah, because it feels very hard, this landscape. I think even in our sidewalks, we try to incorporate tree boxes to at least allow for some greenery. I don't want it to be super green in the front and all the sides and in the back end, because you do have residents that's what they view when they see the building, right? So at least incorporate some greenery that will ideally help, right? With some of the water storm management issues you guys are having. Okay, other than that, I think most of the questions that I've asked are the things that we already covered, and I agree with the different points. Luke, I'm gonna pass it to you. If I have something else to add, I'll go ahead and add it. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to remind folks that this project also includes the redesign of Perry Street. So Perry Street will be all cobbled pavers like the original design. That's not changing. And with the with the funding of all this that we're considering with the grants and with some of the ARPA funding covering the stormwater fixes, this is the whole project's going to get done in one fell swoop if we agree to the ARPA funding of the park and the stormwater fixes.
Luke and Mr. Kamal, that would be a question for you. What is the timeline for this park for work to start if we went ahead and approve this?
Can I answer that, Luke?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Kamali.
Yeah, this all depends that when LID is gonna finalize all these drawings, and then if they need to go through any permitting. So hopefully when I talked to them in the last meeting, they said in next 6 to 7 months. David, is that correct?
With the number of permits that we have to get, and also with some of the difficulties we've recently experienced with COVID, I think 6 months would be a very, very optimistic timeline to have all of our permits. So I would personally would like to set expectations more in like the 9 or so month range. But we will, of course, do everything we can to get them as soon as possible.
And then also to remind folks, the ARPA grant, the grant from the Anacostia Heritage Trails, will cover the Rhode Island Avenue sidewalk with the street rails, and then the rocks in the park that will be, have elements of his, telling our history, while the DHCD grant will cover demolition and most everything else on the block. And then the ARPA funding could cover the stormwater and any park. So the ARPA could cover the park and the stormwater, DHCD, and then our own money that we've allocated for this would cover the remainder.
Okay, one question for you guys. On the Rhode Island end, is there any flexi payment currently there or not?
No.
Okay. Because I definitely wouldn't want that to be removed. All right. Are you gonna, let me look, I'm sorry. Jimmy, is that you? See your mic open? I wasn't sure if you're stretching. Go ahead, Jimmy. And I'll go to Jared right after.
Maybe either Luke or Mr. Kamali, maybe we could like a short, like even not a spreadsheet, like I'm a little confused of how much of Memorial Park, I wasn't here for that grant, the after grant, and then how much ARPA money we need and what are the different pieces of it. So the Memorial Park is how much, and is that paid for through a grant? And then the after grant is, what I heard you says the Rhode Island part, and then ARPA would be for something else, but maybe we could get like 2 or 3 bullet points, so I could understand it,
I can work with Mr. Kamali on that.
And the only thing we're talking about is right now is the 9 months just to do the Memorial Park part of it. The other stuff is after that. Is that what I'm hearing, Luke, or,
No, it would be everything at once, right, Mr. Kamali?
Yeah, the design, everything will be ready to go for construction after 9 months. Once we get all this information from LID, then we can bet it out and get a contractor to move forward.
So we need to know how much of this is not paid for through grants and how much is ARPA money. That's the only thing I would say.
Look, you want to answer that, or?
Well, yeah, I can. We can actually touch on that with when we get to the ARPA portion of the agenda. And we probably
don't have to cover all that tonight, guys. We could definitely look at Mr. Kamali could put documents together, submit to the rest of the council, so that we're on the same page and it could be addressed in either in the ARPA fund if you already have the information at a different meeting. But it's 7:45, so and we've only done one item on the agenda. Okay, so I would say let's touch it in the because this just was about the presentation, and where we felt, remember, it's a work session. So that's all it is at this point. So we do have time to get anything else in between decision making if for the next meeting. All right. We're good. Jared, do you have anything else to add or question to the presenters?
Nope, nothing else. Thank you so much for coming in.
All right. Thank you guys so much for the work and all the different changes that you guys have made. And it's great working with you guys, and outstanding job presenting and working through our questions. So we're very appreciative of the work you do, and I'm sure you guys are going to have a beautiful lives to work with beyond this. All right. So
Thank you.
Thank you, University of Maryland, Jack, David, Amy, Susie, Rai, and Michael for being here tonight. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Beautiful to put it in color. Okay. It makes it more it brings it more to life. So, all right, perfect. We're going to be moving on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is the ARPA funds discussion. Mayor and Council will discuss the status of the projects and give updates when it comes to where we're at with the ARPA funding items that we have in the list. So Luke, I need you to work on the rundown of this portion of the agenda.
Sure, I can share my screen.
Sacrifice yourself, Luke.
I will.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me move some windows around here so I can play with this. Okay, so this is the projects that we still have listed, and in orange, there's projects that we need to hear back from Thomas on, who's I think on the call, and maybe could provide us an update on those ones. Green is where we've reached consensus for moving forward, and voted to move forward with those in legislative sessions. Blue is consensus is reached, but there was no vote yet in a legislative session on moving forward. So the spending categories, the first one is stormwater management. The 33rd and Perry project, that one was part of what we just talked about with that Memorial Park and the whole block. Those stormwater fixes, so we don't have a estimate on that piece, but that could be funded from ARPA for those stormwater fixes. We had talked about, we had consensus on moving forward with it. We just didn't have a cost estimate, so now we can figure that piece out. 31st and Perry is the next one here, and that was $609,000 for the fix at 31st and Perry to cut off access to Eastern Avenue there and capture the stormwater that's coming off Eastern Avenue. So that's been agreed to. We have not revisited the Arundel Road extension of the Green Street project, which was a $2.3 million option. We have not revisited the 32nd Street option, nor the 31st Street option. And we have not revisited the South Side redesign of 35th, 36th, and 37th, which was $1.12 million, nor the Newton Street project on the South Side from 34th to 37th Street. There was a $922,000 option with permeable pavement along the whole gutter, and there was an $806,000 option with permeable pavement just from 34th to Newton Place. So those are projects that we have not considered. We did vote to move forward on the Tree Commission's proposal for the climate resilience and stormwater mitigation urban tree planting for $20,000. We have not discussed the Mount Rainier Elementary stormwater project, nor the Joe's Movement Emporium project or the Melinda Miles building green roof. Both of those are about $200,000. We did approve Thomas Stone expanded outdoor classrooms for $20,000 and Mount Rainier expanded outdoor classrooms at $20,000. I should probably redo those figures, so they are $20,000 each. And we did approve for Joe's Movement Emporium the art program for $50,000, which I'm not going to even try to butcher in Spanish. I will skip over the 529. We can come back to that. I just want to touch on the remaining projects that we funded. The MRBA proposal, up to $5,000 to replace lost revenue. We okayed that for $50,000. We have not talked about a potential partnership with FSC. Food security, we approved for $100,000. Rental relief for $50,000. And I'm just going to scroll down to the remaining projects. Richardson Park for $150,000. Spring Park to create an outlet, $11,000 to create an outlet of the water that pools there. The social worker we agreed on, which is $120,000 over $40,000 over each year for 3 years. Vaccine incentives for $10,000. The program manager for $300,000 over the course of 3 years. The ARPA consultant for $100,000. So the total allocated right now is $1.6 million. It's actually 1.5999, which means we have 3.8 remaining. And that is where we are. I know Thomas is here. So I Mayor, one thing that I would recommend, we ask him questions on the remaining orange highlighted proposals, and then we can get into a discussion of any one of the projects that we haven't agreed yet, if somebody has an update on those or anything to add.
Thank you, Luke. Yes, Michael is here. 100% agree to figure out where the update is on the yellow boxes to figure out whether we're going to move forward or not in the next meeting to approve some of these things. So, Luke, since you're there and it's highlighted under your name, how about we start with you, Jimmy, and then Jared, and I'll wrap it up. Go ahead.
All right. So, Thomas, I think we had 2 items that were still yellow highlighted. The 529 college savings accounts for elementary students who are on a free or reduced lunch. And then I think the other one was the bike co-op window replacement. Those were the 2 where we were waiting to have feedback. And I don't know if you have feedback on whether those items would be allowable expenses.
Thank you. So as you may have known, the Treasury came out with their final rule last on January 6th, which the final rule essentially means that's the final guidelines they're going to issue and the rules that the recipients have to abide by. And we'll give Mr. Kamali a more formal opinion, but on the 529, we still don't see how that meets their eligibility status, given, partly given the time period for how the ultimate benefit is to the students. On the second one, if you can scroll down, the co-op. The co-op, and I thought we had articulated this before, but the co-op, as with ARPA funds, using it for under the COVID-related expenditures, it was not an eligible use. However, one of the big changes that the final rule came out with was related to revenue loss. Basically, what they said was they expanded the revenue loss to recipients to take it under one of 2 approaches. One, which is doing a calculation that Treasury had identified, which we did with Mr. Kamali and his team, and it showed for the first calendar year at least, that there wasn't a loss. But what Treasury did with the final rule is they basically came out and said recipients can essentially take a standard allowance, or think of it this way: when you fill out your tax return, you can do a standard deduction. They're basically allowing recipients to take up to $10 million or the total amount of their grant award, if it's less than 10, and use it for and categorize it as revenue loss. You don't have to show under that scenario whether you did or did not actually have a revenue loss. And if you take it under revenue loss, if you remember, then you can spend that amount of money on governmental services, which essentially is things that typically governments do. So potentially this could come into play for the co-op piece if it's something that you typically, kind of would have done with governmental, without all this money, right? Basically. And the benefit of taking and spending money under this governmental services piece is, and one of the reasons Treasury did it was it makes it far more simpler to report on for the recipients. Because a lot of these requirements, as you know, if you're spending it on the traditional kind of COVID things that we've been talking about for a few months, there's a lot of reporting requirements that you have to do. But Treasury tried to simplify it especially for the smaller cities and towns by giving them this standard allowance option.
Okay.
So
they would have to apply. Would they have to apply for funding through? Would we have to set up a revenue loss program for them to apply for funding through?
Well, it's a question of, and talking, and we'll talk to Mr. Kamali, but if it's something that typically the city would do or government in general would do, where before we had a lot of conversations about, like with city buildings, right? Unless it was dealing with a COVID mitigation tactic or those kind of things, you couldn't just do a repair to a city building. Now with this governmental service piece, we're broadening it out to things like that, like providing police services, things that typically governments do on a day in, day out basis. So normally that's what kind of can fall into this category.
Would it make, and I'm going to get a little off track here, would it make expenditures like Potts Hall, like expending money to revitalize that? Because
Yeah,
we would-
that it makes it, it's a whole new world now. So think of it this way, Mr. Chesak, and previously before they did this, you had one bucket, which was COVID, the COVID bucket, right? Where everything had to fit into all these different 60-some categories. Now what Treasury has said is, now you've got two buckets. If you take this revenue loss piece, especially a standard allowance component, now it's opened it up into things that you would typically do, like the building that you were just referenced. Now you can go in and fix up the building and those kind of things. And you can use the ARPA money for that. Plus, it's a simpler reporting process than what you would have to do under the right side, the COVID specific bucket.
So that definitely opens the whole new world, Michael, completely. So
Oh, it
by
does.
default,
It
it is
does.
a city. It is a city building. So yeah, the roof, the windows, everything is something that the city will take care of because it's part of their property. Yeah.
Yeah, so it opens it up for more potential needs. So still think of things in a need fashion, right? But now it's, instead of just one bucket where you kind of had to put the needs, had to fit into neatly, now you have another one that's far more flexible to do. So I would still urge our clients to still focus on needs, and then we can point you into which bucket it kind of goes as you try to address those needs. Definitely, it brings a lot at play that a lot of the things that you had before that our firm kind of said, no, it doesn't fit. Now those things are on the table. A lot of those things are on the table.
Okay.
And in your case, because you're less than 10, theoretically, you could spend your whole allocation under these governmental services.
Okay, I just have, Mayor, one update on one of the projects. It would be the Memorial Park project, and then I could turn it over to anybody else who wants to do an update on any other project.
Go ahead, give that update, and then I'll pass the mic across.
Okay, so here's the Memorial Park potential line item. The cost, the funding that we would need for this would be $1 million. The cost estimate that we had was 1.4 million. It might actually be less now with the pared down design you saw, but because it's a 9-month away project, you don't know with inflation what that's going to look like, and with materials what that's going to look like. $400,000 is already allocated to this $1.4 million process. And Jimmy, $300,000 of that is from the Department of Housing and Community Development for the block itself. It could be for the park. It can be definitely used for demolition. So we can put some bullet bullets to make it what that looks like. The Anacostia Heritage Trails, the Maryland Historic Trust Fund, is for $100,000, and that deals with the Rhode Island Avenue sidewalk and the historic elements of Memorial Park. And so what ARPA would do is any remaining costs of the park itself, and then the stormwater improvements that we saw. So we hope that would total about 1 million, and sort of we could fit this all together. But Thomas, would we be able to not have to delineate that way? Would we be able to, based on what you just said, use ARPA funding to do any elements of that streetscape?
That's what I'm, based on the conversation, because that previous conversation was helpful for us because we hadn't heard that level of detail before. Our initial assessment will be, and I reserve the right to change it tomorrow after I talk to Mr. Kamali a little bit more, but I think so, because my concern where Mr. Tarlew was going earlier was, if you do it under the COVID bucket, the $1 million whatever you spend with ARPA has to be related to the stormwater and the park piece. So it can't be gap filling. So end of the day is, when you get a construction bid, you're going to have to really be sensitive to, okay, is it $1 million worth of park and stormwater pieces, or because it can't go into really other kind of components. But if this is a traditional type of a project, fixing a public park and those kind of things, more likely you can put it on the governmental services side that gives you a little more flexibility because now you don't have to worry about it fitting so neatly into stormwater per se, and you can have some of the overflows if necessary, cover some other things.
Okay.
Because my question will be, Mr. Chesak, is if you didn't have, if the city had enough money, right? Would you, this is the type of project you would do, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the test that I would use. So this one, I would say put it to the left bucket, which is the government services bucket.
Okay.
Now, you still have to follow the federal procurement guidelines and conflict of interest and all those things, but that's a neater, simpler and simpler reporting mechanism behind that as well.
Beautiful. And then I don't have to get bullets together for Jimmy.
That's it.
Right, because I think that's where it was starting to make me a little nervous was how you're going to delineate the sources where Mr. Carlu was going.
Yeah. Okay. That's all for me. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Luke. Jared, and then Jimmy.
No, thanks for pulling this together, Luke and Tom, for your background on eligibility, especially with the final rule, which I am wading through, but have not gone all the way through. So, quick question on the. I was disappointed to hear the answer on the, or not disappointed on Treasury's answer on the 529 college savings account. Is the issue there the expenditure? Like the expenditure would occur immediately, but the benefits would not accrue until the savings account money was redeemed?
Right. I mean, that's the saving. Now, let me be clear. I mean, Treasury's final rule does not specifically say college savings accounts are ineligible, but it's when you read the context of one, how are these students? Is it proportional to the impact of these students, right? What are you trying to address, right? So we're focusing on free and reduced meal kids, and we're trying to ultimately try to bridge an education gap, but it's a 15, 16, 17, 18 year window of time when the benefit is actually going to be experienced. So it's kind of tied into that, where they're looking more at putting this money into use by the end of calendar year 2026, whereas ultimately that one, the benefit is 15, 18 years down the road.
Okay, even if the impacts, because compounded by inflation, would be significant. So, okay, I understand. So if we were to do something around this, the impact, the disbursement would have to be immediate, and the would have to be more near term.
Well, that's why they kind of tried to focus on like more of the near term, where the goal of this was to really reduce education gaps, which we know flows into income gaps. And so, more immediate approaches would be to help, do some job, unemployment or job training type of things that essentially are trying to get at the same thing, where you're trying to beef up residents' skill level and those kind of things to be able to reduce their income gaps. That's kind of a more near-term approach to kind of getting at the same thing. And those type of things are eligible because they're happening more quickly.
Got it. Okay, no, that's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else to add, Jared? And we only have 4
right.
minutes, if you guys have to extend time.
Not right now. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Jimmy, the floor is yours.
Yes. So I'm kind of concerned about maybe because there's an MRBA meeting tomorrow, and I know the mayor's going to attend, about the MRBA and the Joe's proposal. We had talked about a third party. Omicron is really, I've been to restaurants, I was at Franklin's today, and it's kind of empty, and people are really hurting. And we had this proposal about helping in grants, and we talked about having a third party hiring somebody. But is there any way we can move this forward? Because it's like kind of people are kind of today kind of not. Is there any way? I guess my question is, what can we do about the MRB proposal and the Joe's proposal to try and get that fast forward so we can get that money to the people who really need it now.
Can you be more specific with what your proposal are you talking about? Because they have.
But we had two. There's the MR proposal. There's one, the audit para totals proposal for 50K, and then below there was the proposal to replace lost revenue, and we had approved those a few months ago. But I think there was a discussion about needing someone to manage it, and that's going to be taking some time. I was wondering if there's any way we can, get this done sooner, or figure out how we can get this done, because people are suffering and the businesses may not stay in business.
I mean, on the business one, I mean, we can work with Mr. Kamali and come up with an application process. Because remember, everything with with these money have to go through essentially a competitive process. You can't just all money out to a specific group.
Right. Okay.
And
it was like to individual businesses. It wasn't to the MRBA.
No, on that one. But I'm referencing. I'm going to get to. I'm putting that in context with related to Joe's even, because with Joe's we need to probably essentially put out a a notice of funding for grants to specifically what program they're doing, and then. We know not many nonprofits are going to apply for it and handle it that way. Just so it's clean and clear to Treasury 5 years from now that there was some kind of competitive grant award. So on both of those, we'll draft something up for Mr. Kamali to look at and put out there on the street, so to speak, with a relatively quick turnaround.
Like 2 to 3 weeks, you think?
Yeah, I mean, the business one you may want to put out a little bit longer, because that's going to take a minute for some of them to receive it and put a deadline in the city. Mr. Kamali would just need to decide if this is going to be in the case of the business in particular, is it going to be a fluid one where they're considering applications and approving them as they come in, or is it going to be wait to a deadline and then review them at that point in time? Just be given that there's essentially, if you're doing up to 5,000 a business, I think it was, basically can do 10 businesses. So that's something, we can discuss the pros and cons with Mr. Kamali about, do you open it up and the first 10 in the door get it, or you wait and see who's kind of in there, and then you kind of do something based on need for the whole pool.
That'd be great if Mr. Kamali could come up with something, because I think.
Sure, we'll do.
Yeah, so we'll have something for him this week on both.
Thank you.
Hey, Jared, Jared, you already spoke? Sorry, Jared.
Yep. I'm good.
Okay, so Luke, just make sure we're the social service coordinator. Make sure my name is on it, because I just see Kamali's and Jamie, and I worked a lot on that one.
People that literally can't work out of their homes.
Okay, so the other thing is, like, when it comes to food insecurity, the Thanksgiving baskets and the holiday baskets were given away to our residents. And that included our seniors from Rainier Manor. That included connecting with both schools. And that
Dr. Parker, are you concerned about the human toll or the economic
can you guys
devastation
do me a favor? Can you guys mute everybody except for me?
of my apartment? I don't know what the economists worried about that. I saw it on Dr. Parker very early on in this pandemic.
Thank you. And
Not just Dr. Fauci, but CDC.
Sounds like somebody has TV on in the background.
I think it's Michael. Laura,
yeah, that's the point of you'll be removed from the call. Okay, thank you guys. So I think that what we need to be working right now is like definitely get the different guidance that Michael is going to send, so we know what specifically we could address. When it comes to the food, I did stated that both Thanksgiving and holiday baskets were given, and we work in coordination with the schools, with two of our nonprofits and community organizations, as well as a regular food distribution, Rainier Manor as well. And the city took registrations to make sure these baskets were going to where was most needed. So it was a very successful event. We managed to also get some donations that help with the cost. The reality is that food is ridiculously expensive right now, and there's a shortage everywhere. So I want to definitely commend the team for going the extra length to find food and make it accessible to our residents. And aside from the food baskets, we managed to bring various tons of non-perishable foods, working with County Councilmember Denia Taveras during that time period. But definitely the baskets was what put it together of the things that they needed to make sure our residents were able to celebrate the holiday season, and they had food for that time. The rental relief, we're trying to we're waiting on our hold on, give me 1 second. The other items we're working on is still not there when it comes to now that the new rules have changed. I think we definitely need to find out what does it mean for the things that were a no, and if this opens the door for other things to ideally be added to the list. And remember, it's like, only half of the money's with us right now. We could work on plans and start working on the things that we need to find out to get them settled here. So we don't have to have all the answers here for tonight. So the other thing I am gonna request, can you guys please start putting on the agenda numbers like discussion number 10 of like ARPA funding, so that we could keep keeping track of all this discussion, so that when we do the report, it showcases how many discussions we've had on the subject as well, because that's part of like the grant requirements, to show open discussions happening when decisions are being made and the opportunity for community members to participate. So whether it's like open meetings or if we're having a meeting, a community meeting, that we also keep track of that by numbering, that definitely will help. Let me see, was there anything else on my end? Sorry, I can't move the agenda. Okay, perfect. Let me see. Let me see. So, Council, time is already up in this subject. Is there anything else that needs to be added to, or anything else you guys want to put on? Or do you guys want to move over to the next item?
Do we have to vote on anything at the next meeting, the legislative meeting? Any action?
I don't think there's nothing for us to vote right now on. I think it was just like a check-in.
No, not today, but the next, at the legislative meeting.
That's what I'm saying, but this was just a check-in, but I don't think we're moving nothing forward.
Okay.
Mayor Benitez, if I may add something real quick.
Go ahead.
Mr. Kamali and I talked this afternoon. It may be helpful at your next legislative meeting that we bring together a simplified version of what Mr. Cheswick has done with dollars and things and the actions, so that you can kind of see it in a simpler fashion, so that everybody's kind of clear what's been approved and what hasn't been approved yet. Okay.
That's fine. I think that we could definitely have an external document, an internal document. I think at least this one, Cheswick's document helps me, because I could see like a history record of what's been going on. So that'd be more internal for us to manage. And in case like we need to add it to the report, definitely will work. And then the other one could be more for the public to see if they want to go more in depth, they could follow Cheswick's report.
Right.
Does that make sense? Go ahead.
Just especially because at some point, you've approved various items over multiple sessions, and there hasn't been really one that's very straightforward and clear that you may want to have the public kind of see, so they understand completely what's going on without scrolling through 12 pages of things. That's all.
One pager, yeah. We're on the same page. That works. Council, how are you feeling towards that? Shake your head if we're good with that.
Mayor.
Melissa, hold on 1 second, okay?
Okay.
Council, are we okay with that part so far? The new page, so that was a one pager to keep the committee informed as Thomas suggested?
Yep, and Mayor, I can create that new bucket for government services and start lumping stuff into that as well for everybody and get that over to folks tonight. And Thomas, were you going to take the lead then on putting this into a simpler document?
Yeah, and including, yes. So, and we've provided Mr. Kamali a summary of the final rule that also he can share with you as well. But yeah, it would be helpful. We'll take even a first crack at what you suggested, is which buckets of that list of 40 some things, each one of these can kind of fall in.
Yeah, and then Mayor, I would like a consideration of a vote on Memorial Park, not tonight, but at some point in the future on that whole block, just so that we know that money's accounted for if we do support it for future decisions, understanding that wouldn't get spent anytime, not for 9 months.
Clarify something for me, Luke. Was that vote already taken to move forward with that, or more money's been added to the line?
That vote has not been taken yet. We haven't taken a vote. We only took a vote on the stormwater management piece of it.
Okay.
But we didn't know the cost of it at the time. We were just voting to go forward with the Perry Street fixes as a whole. So there hasn't been a vote there, so there would need to be a vote.
Thank you for clarifying that, Luke. I will say, Jimmy, I see your hand and I see your mic open.
Luke, as we go forward, my feeling is that it's going to be a limitation on how much is for infrastructure. So, just if we go forward, that, it means, I'll be less interested in doing other infrastructure projects, at least for a while. So just think about that. That's a big number, like another $1 million. We're already committed. So the question is, how much are we committing right now? So just telling you my kind of predilection, as we go forward. I'm not against it. I just want to mention that.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect, Luke. Jared, I see you shaking your hand. Is that a yes, no, any other feedback?
Oh, no, sorry, no additional feedback. Sorry.
All right, perfect. So Mr. Kamali, you had your hand up. Go ahead. And Melissa, follow after Mr. Kamali. Mr. Kamali, you're muted. We cannot hear what you're saying. You're still muted.
All right.
There you go,
Now
Mr.
you can
Kamali.
hear me. Just wanna let you know that regarding the hazard pay, you guys asked for a proposal, and there is a proposal that Melissa can bring it up regarding the premium pay.
You need any, just pick one from the back, okay?
Okay, do we have this document before it's shown on the screen?
Yes, Melissa, would you please bring it up? That's right there. All right, can you see it, Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Kamali, I'm seeing. Yeah, and can you guys do me a favor, when you guys have a resolution such as this, can you send it to council? Not today or the day of this stuff, so we could review it with enough time. Because right now we're basically looking at this document for the first time in public, and we can even give feedback if we have any feedback before this document goes out.
Sure, we'll do that. I appreciate it.
So this is for, this is definitely an agenda item. I wouldn't even consider it part of this because it's a whole entire resolution we're discussing. So a resolution will have to have been added to the agenda. Okay, it says this is from March 1st, 2020 to August 30, 2020. Is this, hold on, Mr. Kamali, is this the same time frame as the past resolution?
No, this is a
different time frame?
It's after that, after the first resolution, because the first one was from March to August. This one is starting from September to April, April the 30th, because most of the government places, they include that time frame for the hazard pay. And I'm sorry that that was a part of ARPA. That's why we put it in ARPA. It's already been run by the city attorney, and I just wanted, to bring it as an ARPA discussion. We're not asking you to do anything on it tonight. Just want to, sorry.
So I will say, because it's a resolution, if we could get it sent to us so we could review it and add officially into the agenda for us to look at. Because if it was just like, an update on, you the lawyer, Mike and you joined together to work on the document and you guys are going to present something to us, that's an update. But this is a resolution, to move forward. So it's a whole entire document that we have to like read through and figure out what exactly does this mean.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Council questions, or because I know this is the first time you guys are seeing it.
No, I'm good with them walking us through it. Thank you.
Okay. Who's this? Who just spoke? Sorry.
Sorry, that was Luke saying I'm good with the team walking us through what this is.
Okay. Jared, Jimmy.
Yep.
Okay, we could read through it, guys, but remember, if it's not inside the agenda, you guys are happy. You guys could amend the agenda, but you're asking to read a resolution within an update of ARPA. So it's two different things. All right, go ahead, Mr. Kamali, read through it.
Read the entire section or read only?
Yeah,
Just
any
just an
significant
overview.
section, like, hold on.
The overview is
Luke,
that.
hold on for 1 second. Read any of the whereas that is significant for us
Okay.
to be able to know what exactly we're looking at, what periods it covers, the amount it covers, who it covers.
Okay. Can I just read it to you, or? Okay, we're gonna go to paragraph. All right, Melissa, can you? Yes, right there. Okay, the city manager has recommended that the salary plan be amended to provide additional COVID hazard pay, paid retroactively as a COVID-19 hazard pay for essential employees of Department of Public Works, Code Compliance, Police Department who worked during the period of September 1st, 2020 through April 30th, 21 for 35 weeks, and who are the city employees on the next regular pay date following adoption of this resolution. And then we go to the next paragraph. All right, so we're asking basically for the police department. All right, let's go. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the mayor and council for the city of Mount Rainier that eligible essential employees of the police department who work during the period of above and are actively employed by the city as of the next regular pay date for the city employees following adoption of this resolution will be entitled to receive an amount of $350 per week, not to exceed $12,250 per employee. And by the mayor and council, the city council of Mount Rainier, that eligible essential employees of the Department of Public Works and the Code Compliance who work during the period above and are actively employed by the city on the next regular pay date for the city employee following adoption of this resolution will be entitled to receive an amount of $250 per week, not to exceed $8,750 per employee. So what we're trying to say, last time they got the hazard pay from March 1st to August. And then mayor and council asked me to look into it as a premium pay by using the ARPA money for this opportunity. And I'm sorry if I put it as a resolution. I was trying to bring it to your attention tonight.
It's fine. All I'm asking, Mr. Kamali, is like, next time, put it in the agenda, like a number in the agenda. So that way we could, you know what I'm saying? So that way, like number 7, so that was in there. So that way it's listed as that. So that was like on the record.
My mistake. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay, Mr. Kamali. Okay. Thank you. Anything else you want? What's
Any
that?
questions?
Therefore, be resolved, Mr. Kamali. The last two paragraphs.
Okay. All right, Melissa, can you go up? Please scroll up. Okay, be it further resolved by the mayor and council of the Mount Rainier that eligible in, no, I read that one, the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect on the day it is adopted, and the retroactive COVID-19 hazard pay shall be paid to eligible employees on the next regular city pay date.
Okay.
Any
Mr.
questions?
Kamali, yeah, for the police department, I know for the COVID relief fund, they were specific when it came to police officers. Is that something that we're supposed to do here or no? Is the question, because they were very, very specific on it last time, and I want to make sure that we put the right information on here if need be, but that way, like, we know. That would be a Michael question.
No, I'm trying to follow.
If I
your
remember,
question,
this was essentially almost worded the exact same way as the
Same
previous
thing
one
as-
from last with the CARES money.
Yeah, and that was the reason why I was asking, because I know in the problem that we had with the other resolution, if not, it was specifically, I was specifically stated that it was supposed to be for officers, the police officer portion of it. That's what I make sure you guys get clarity on it, because I know we're still dealing
I
with
know
some of
what
the
you're talking
aftermath
about.
now. Okay. All right. So thank you, Mr. Kamali, for reading it. And I want to make sure it's clear. I'm not opposing to the hazardous pay. I just want to make sure it's in the right location so that way we could track it when it comes to proposing resolutions. Okay.
No, I appreciate that. Appreciate it, Mayor.
Okay, so let me open. So I'm going to ask for two things. One, Council, can you please, may I please request you guys allocate more time to this item, because we're definitely over time. Council members?
I propose 5 more minutes.
Thank you, Jimmy. Any second?
Seconded.
Thank you so much. Any objection? Abstention? Seeing none. So I need to ask you guys a question. Do you guys want to just amend the agenda and add this to the agenda itself? Because as it stands here, it's just a point with a beautiful document, but it's not part of the agenda as an ordinance itself.
What was on the agenda, Mayor? I thought something like this. Maybe I can't see the
Nope.
agenda.
The agenda had nothing to do with this. It said ARPA update.
Oh, but later on the agenda, don't we have a point on this and later in the agenda?
Nope.
Yeah, I know. I read it. No, it reads.
If it's read in the agenda, then we should not be discussing it now. So I will ask for you guys to resend the time to discuss it now. It has to be moved back to the agenda item.
It's not part of the agenda. It was part of the package. So that's where you saw it. It was in the package.
Thank you, Melissa. So it's not
Sorry.
part of the agenda as a number. So I will ask you if that's what I was like. I'm pretty sure it wasn't there because I remember you reading it.
I apologize.
So that's the reason why I want to make sure that we proceed appropriately. It is an open meeting, we're reading it, but it's under ARPA update, not under a number in the agenda for resolution. So I need guidance from you guys on what is it that you guys want to do. You guys want to talk, ask questions about this, or you guys just want to throw any agenda item and we discuss it in that agenda item and you put it whatever number you need in the agenda.
Is there going to be need to bring this back to another session because we have open questions? And that's a question, or is everything we need here, or some of the questions that Mayor you raised, do they need to get answered? I'm wondering if this is ready for discussion tonight or if it's better for us to wait on this. I don't know the answer.
I mean, we could always call a special meeting just to discuss this, right? It's not a problem if we need to do this. But if you have, I mean, you guys ask your questions and figure out whether they can answer them or not.
Okay.
But whichever way you decide to do, if you want to proceed in asking questions specifically about this resolution, I will feel more comfortable for it to be added to the agenda item or
Okay.
move it to a different meeting, but not leave it as this. Because to me, it's an update. It's like we discussed it with the city lawyer. We're bringing a resolution up to you guys on the next meeting.
Okay.
That's an update. This is a whole entire resolution within the document. That's the reason why.
Just the ARPA connection, Mayor, can we, how much this is going to be cost? And do we need appropriate money for this? That makes at least the ARPA part of it. We have any estimate
Jimmy,
of what
but it's
this
a
is?
resolution itself. So resolutions, they need to go to work session and they need to be listed in the work session. That's what I'm saying. If you guys want to discuss it, just move it to the next item after the, you guys could put a pause on this one. It's a work session. Move on to the next item and then go back.
Okay.
Nothing stopping you from doing that, but I'd rather have it in the agenda than just have it floating in here because I don't want people to feel that this should not be the standard for us to like put it in as an update when it comes to a resolution. It'll be the same thing as if Luke were to throw a resolution inside his presentation. I'll be asking him to like move it out to like an agenda item so that way it's clearly listed. You know, though it might be a connection because it's funding, but he also did it. He did presentation and ARPA funding on two different things. So I want to make sure that that is that is there. I see a message. I apologize. I'm working from my computer and my phone.
I move that we make this item number 5 in the agenda after the ARPA discussion, and then every other agenda item would just move down one.
Yeah, there is a correction I already see. It says COVID-19 instead of COVID-19. So so that needs to be changed. All right, so what number do you want it to make, Luke?
I move that we make it agenda item number 5 and then move everything else down one number. And that would be the agenda item after the ARPA discussion.
All right, so can I ask you guys, we already talked for 5 minutes. It's not gonna make a difference. So is there, thank you. So Melissa, actually Jimmy and Jared, are we in agreement with this?
Yes.
So
This
I
is
need
the
us to make a
relationship to
motion
ARPA.
to add- Hold on, I need us to make a motion to add this to the agenda. And Luke, if you're doing that, it has to be second and we'll move it into the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second. Any objection? Abstention? Okay, so we'll move it up to item number 5 of the agenda. Can you do that for us, Melissa?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, is there anything else that we need to address on this item? Specifically for the ARPA update that we received from Michael information or any updates that we have? I know we were gonna be going to the rest of council. So Jimmy, do you have any update, any item that has your name attached to it?
Just on the item that we're going to be discussed, is there an estimate on the cost, since that'll be part of the ARPA discussion?
That is gonna be that's gonna be in a different, I'm talking about your updates personally from any item that you're attached to.
I made my points. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Jared, any update on any information to, so we could update this table in front of us?
Sorry, what table? There's nothing on the screen.
The ARPA
No.
Excel sheet that Luke has. Do you have anything else to add?
I do not.
Okay.
No. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we will go back to this point, but I would like for us to talk about the other ones separately, okay? So we'll move on to number 5, and we'll come back to number 4 if we need to add, because it's gonna need numbers and estimate and everything else, and that's the reason why I usually like things in the agenda ahead of time. Okay, so moving on to item number 5, Melissa, do you need anything else to add on this one, Melissa, or no? Because I did say that mic was yours after Mr. Kamali. I can hear you, Melissa.
No, that's it.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Okay, so if you guys could get me the agenda on the screen. Melissa, you have the agenda? Thank you so much. The new item number 5 is Resolution 01-2022 hazardous pavement, and council will have a discussion on Resolution 01-2022 hazard pay. It was properly moved and second to be added to the agenda. So that is not on the record. All right, so move out the resolution. So council, I'm gonna go around to you guys and you guys go ask questions. Or figure out what you want to do, whether you want to table this, create a special meeting. I need to hear from you. Okay. So Jimmy, you're gonna go first. You're muted, Jimmy.
On this, I just want to know if there's an estimate on the cost.
Mr. Kamali, do you have an estimate on the cost?
No, but we can provide it by tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Are we talking
Kamali.
about just
Do you have
ballpark?
another question?
Mayor, Mr. Kamali, are we talking ballpark?
I have to look into it, Jimmy, because we have about, different numbers in the police department and public works and the code compliance. So if you allow me, I will have this information by tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Kamali. Jimmy, do you have a follow-up question? Or you're good? Or another question? Jimmy?
I don't.
Okay, perfect. I apologize, Jimmy. There's a little bit of delay. I just want to make sure I respect you guys' time. Okay, Jared? And then Luke.
I had the same question as Jimmy, so thanks.
Perfect. Luke?
So this is, I just have, the comment was made earlier, and I'm not sure I understood it, about the relationship between the CARES Act and ARPA, and just making sure we're, this money here is allowable under ARPA, and there's no worry about any contradiction that it should have been spent under the CARES Act or something like that.
Oh, that I think that question might be to me. No,
it was actually to Mr. Kamali and maybe Thomas.
Perfect.
Sorry, Mayor.
I was like, I could specifically tell you because I didn't remember the dates, but go ahead, Mr. Kamali and Mr. Kamali, Michael, go ahead.
So,
Yeah, I will have Tom to answer the question because.
So under ARPA, you're allowed, recipients are allowed to do retroactive premium pay for workers, essential workers, and it's workers who have regular in-person interactions with others, or they have regular physical handling of items that were handled by others. So that's the definition, and in general, that's the definition, Mr. Cheswick. That's who's eligible for it, and there's other aspects of it, but that's the basics of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Luke, I'll tell you, at least for my comment, it was because for the core relief fund last time, they were very specific that it was police officers and the public works team, right? So that created a bit of confusion when it said police department and who fit into that department. So I want to make sure that we were clear on it so that we would not face the same problem that we faced on the last resolution. And can you guys do me a favor? The first whereas on parentheses COVID-19, we need to edit that where it says COVID-19. It says COVID right now. So we have to edit that. Okay, so guys, you guys already asked some of your questions. What would you guys like to do? We do need an estimate. Mr. Kamali will be able to provide it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to bring this back in a different meeting? I'll have a special meeting just on the subject. What do you guys see the path forward?
My recommendation is for a cost estimate, and then do we have to do a one reading at the legislative session? And then before we can vote, and then just my recommendation would just be go through the normal process, however many readings it has to get, and until we have to pass it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Luke. Jamie, Jared?
No, I'm generally supportive. I just feel we have to have a sense of what we're talking about. We're talking about $500,000 or, $3,500. I mean, the way it looks like, it could be $500,000, but, that's important for us at least to understand, what we're talking about.
If you
Perfect.
add 3,500 times, 20, you get 700,000.
Wow.
Thank you, Jamie. Jared?
Yeah, I mean, same point as Jimmy, and I just again very much in supportive of this in spirit, but I need to know what the financial impact is.
Yeah. So I would, definitely, and this is the reason why I decided to pull it out of the ARPA. I asked you guys to pull it either out of the ARPA update or put in the agenda somewhere else, so that way we could at least gotten those questions addressed. So we're gonna follow that regular process for resolution to make sure it's not challenged later on, right? And this has to be read. The amounts and answers need to be put forward so we know what this impact is and even what it looks like for present and future. Okay. Do you guys have any other feedback on this? So Mr. Kamali, work on those numbers and get to us, and we'll
Can
move
I
forward
just
to
say
the next step
something
on
here,
this
please?
resolution. Go ahead, Mr. Kamali. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to go back to Jimmy's question because the maximum pay for each police officer is $12,000. So if we have 20 officers, it's going to be 240 the max, and then we have 10 employees for public works and the code compliance, which is 8,750, I believe. So that brings it to 100,000. So we're talking about roughly $300,000 or 350. But I give you the definite number by tomorrow.
Yeah, please. So that we could also add it to the Excel sheet, and we go through the process of approving the resolution one, right? Adding it to the ARPA sheet, so that way we are allocated and able to vote to move through it. Okay. So seeing that there's no other questions or comments from council, I'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you, guys, and I'm sorry for being a little technical, but that's part of my job running this meeting, and I want to make sure later on we are not penalized for not doing the things correctly. Okay, so let me see, what is the next one? Item number 6 on the agenda, Pulse Hub update. The city manager will give an update on the financial options on Pulse Hub to the mayor and council. Mr. Kamali, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As requested last time by Mayor and Council to go through some financing option in order to move with the Civic Center project. So what I did, I contacted the SunTrust Bank, which we put some information in the package. So the only loan that we could go through the bank is a commercial loan, which is the max 15 years instead of 30 years. So we may be eligible for 15 years, but the minimum is 10 years. And if we go 10 years, we have a rate of 2.5 to 3.5% interest rate. And for 15 years, we may get 3 to 4%. And the bank is requesting the 3 years audit from 18, 19, 20, and also some other documents. So that was one option. The other option, we reach out to DHCD. Right now, we're in a communication with them. And so we're actually this afternoon, they responded after a week to our request for the bond bill. Then we reach out to Energy Department, State Administration Office regarding getting some help and assistance for the solar system and the geothermal. As you see it in the table, they have some rebate, program that for the solar, the max that we could get is $30,000 roof mounted system. And for geothermal, the max is $12,000, but you need to start the construction. And the deadline for this option is this year. And I believe that we're gonna apply it next year because we're not gonna be ready for this year because the deadline is June the 31st, I believe, which is on the first page. And so right now we have the bank information on the loan for 10 or 15 years. And then we're gonna work with the Department of DHCD and see what opportunities and assistance we can get on the bond bill. Then I will definitely inform mayor and council in the next meeting. And if you have any question, I'll be glad to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Kamali. We're gonna go, Jared, Jamie, Luke on this round. Jared, the floor is yours.
Let me pass. I'm still reading this.
Okay, Jimmy? If you're speaking, you're in mute.
I'm not so much speaking as I'm trying to figure out what specifically are we focusing the discussion on? Maybe Mayor, you have some idea.
I could jump in.
Go ahead, Luke.
Going back to the interest rate from SunTrust, which is 2.5 to 3% for 10 years, what would be the loan payment for at the different price points that we asked to get?
Well, okay. If you look at the 4 million, because I asked them for a different amount, which you requested, 3.5, 4, 4.5, and 5. They said at this point, once you apply for it, we'll let you know how much is going to be the monthly, but I could get some number for, like, if we're supposed to get $4 million loan on 180 months, which is going to be a 15 years based on their rate, which is, 3, it's going to be close to $29,000 monthly.
So that would be, help me out here, times 12.
It's going to be $400,000.
Okay. And what is our current loan? So currently, just for everybody's education, we currently have debt payments that total how much are our annual debt payments right now that are on the books? Are they 270?
I'm not sure.
I may have that. I think my question would be to have for our next meeting is, what are our current annual debt payments? And when do those debt payments end? Because I thought they were scheduled to end this year. And so it would be really a great opportunity if those debt payments end this year to just replace them with a new debt payment. And it would be really great to just figure out what would be the same debt payment, fund Potts Hall with that debt so that there's no impact to the budget. We're just replacing one. Let's say our current debt payment is $400,000. We just replace it with a $400,000 payment. There's no hit to the budget. And then whatever the remaining is that we have to fund, we fund out of our a savings account, which is substantial, or ARPA funding or some mix thereof with the news that we got from Thomas tonight. So so it'd be helpful to know, what is our annual debt payment? When does it end? And when DHC gets back to us with what their interest rates would be, we need to know what SunTrust rates would be, and what those annual payments would be, and then what DHC's annual payments would be. And then I think we can make a decision to, move forward on a potential funding package. That's where I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. I'll give you my feedback. I think with earmarks being open up this year, I'm definitely looking into requesting money that way as well. So that way it will allow for us to be able to utilize some of the money if we get it, to reduce what the amount we need to borrow is. So that way we could potentially stay like in the frame of the money or under what we currently have borrowing. So I want to make sure we put that in the table. There is a meeting on Friday. MML sent an announcement. I also saw Brian Eller send us information as well. I'll be attending. There was a meeting with Senator Carty as well last Friday as well. And as I commented via email with you guys, we were working on scheduling a meeting with Senator Carty's team when it came to the year marks, right? There was a little bit tiny delayed, not just the holidays, but the point person that deals with it. He's a wonderful person, and we wish him the best of everything. He's moving on to the private sector, and the new person is getting all his files, and we already make a connection with them. So that's coming. So I definitely back up like all that Luke said when it comes to the information that we need to figure out, move forward. I think what Michael said tonight about potentially using some of the ARPA funds for this is definitely going to take into account the same thing as well. What Jimmy mentioned when it comes to, there might be a limit of how much infrastructure money we could use. So that might be a deter of that we also need to consider. I know discussion is about Potts Hall and it's on the ARPA funds list. And also, it's also like, you know, the building across the street, the Miles building, right? That we had already been told it's going to be like about 150,000, Mr. Kamali, to get it to work.
Yes.
And that's not including the rooftop. So that's something that we also need to consider to get that building moving. That could potentially bring us some income to be able to offset some of the costs from Potts Hall. So keep that in mind as well if we need to utilize it as a rented space to be able to bring some funds, because I'm all for being able to plan ahead, and this is why I'm glad we're having this discussion, so that way we can make the right decisions when it comes to our city buildings, because you know the cost of materials continue going up, and a decision needs to be made before this project moves on to $6, $7, $8 million, and it's going to be out of reach once again. All right, so Jared and Jimmy, I promise to go back to you guys. Is there anything you guys want to add? Please let me know. So Jimmy, followed by Jared.
Just next steps.
Okay. Jared?
That's a question for the city manager, so if somebody, or Luke or whoever, what are the next steps?
Okay. I was going to ask if Jared had that similar
Okay,
question.
sorry.
But go ahead, Mr. Kamali.
We just have to get all this information and then, you know, because the Civic Center project is ready to go, and then mayor and council will give me a direction what to do.
Thank you, Mr. Kamali. Jared?
Nothing to add.
Okay, so I think right now, Mr. Kamali, this is going to come up to a next meeting with more information. That'll be like the more concrete next step, right? To figure out what it looks like. Hopefully by then we're able to, you know, schedule the new meeting with the earmarks, and we'll attend the meeting on Friday as well to move forward to try to propose it. The other thing is, like, I think keep calling Potts Hall at Civic Center might not be 100% what it looks like based on the information that we, you know, what the building design has. Is more like a community center than a civic center. It's a place where people could, like, you know, utilize for meetings and events and things like that, especially upstairs chamber, right? Because we're not meeting there day and night. So I think we need to start thinking about those aspects as well when it comes to the building. And that also comes attached to what the funding looks like, because Civic Center sounds like it's not going to be nothing but offices, and it's going to be very, very just to us. So I think we also need to figure out, like, part of this conversation is going to also look into what is being built and what we're projecting to do with that space, because we need to be able to sell the story of what it's going to be. Because if not, we're going to be here like financing everything, and we also need some funding to make it happen, you know? So I like very much, like the rest of you guys, because I know all you guys do it, be able to get grants and help to make sure it doesn't just fall on tax-paying money coming back to fix these items. Okay? So council, shake your head if you're ready to move on to the next step. I think we get Mr. Kamali like clear instructions for the next steps forward. Basically gather the information and come back to different, you know, for another meeting. Am I accurate? Go ahead. I apologize if somebody spoke. So if there's nothing else on this
I have
point.
one comment, Mayor.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Just at one point, we have to kind of schedule like a public meeting and discussion on all this after we have it together, you know, get input on
Correct.
all this.
That is accurate. I mean, unless a community meeting just on this topic will be more specific, correct, Jimmy? That's what you're getting at, because these are open meetings to the community. So you're thinking about one item only
Yeah,
discussing.
no, something about the city Potts Hall, the project, and what we're talking about doing, so we get, community
Perfect.
buy-in.
Thank you, Jimmy. 100% in agreement. All right. Moving on to item number 7. It is called the Mayor's Letter of Support for Sustainable Maryland State Funding Bill. Can you guys put it on screen? So as some people are aware, the city of Rainier was one of the founding cities when it came to sustainable Maryland. We have all been asked to sign up individually, but want to make sure that, this is something we support, and if the city has been supporting for quite a bit of time. And as a matter of fact, we were awarded our Sustainable American certification this year at the last year at the MML Summer Conference. So here's the letter. It basically is regarding MDHB Bill 0100. SB 00114, and it is Sustainable American Program Fund Establishment, and it's addressed to the delegates, Appropriation Committee, in the Appropriation Committee, the Senators of Education, Health, Environmental Affairs. So this letter, signed and sent to them, it basically states we're in support of helping communities invest for a more liable tomorrow. Can you scroll down a little bit more or up, whichever you go. See. So there you go, right here. So what is the Sustainable Maryland? So for the past 10 years, Sustainable Maryland has supported municipal governments like Mount Rainier across the state of Maryland by providing jurisdiction like ours with a comprehensive suite of policies, resources, direct support, and incentives designed to help municipalities make progress across a broad range of sustainable goals. In addition, it has helped communities build strong networks of active citizens committed to build the capacity of local governments and improving local level sustainable through this state. This bill to establish Sustainable Maryland Program Fund will help codify the state effort to ensure local government have education, technical assistance, financial resources necessary to improving quality of life. So basically this letter, we do it every so many years. And like I said, since the beginning, Rainier has been a supporter. So here's the letter, go all the way to the end. And it's a program that is funded, as you can tell. And this is what the letter looks like, but this is who it was previously signed. So, there you go, Chester. I see you. So the rest of the council has joined on it, but I want to make sure as a city we take a stand like usually. But if you notice, it's a whole list of very sustainable, happy people. Anyways, council, do you have anything to add regarding this letter and your wonderful support to Sustainable Maryland and the beautiful plaque we're gonna make sure we put in our office and hold under lock and key? We're gonna go with I'll go with Jimmy, Jared, and Luke.
I'm supportive. I have nothing to add.
Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, very supportive. Thanks for pulling this together. Thanks.
Perfect. Luke?
Good to go. Thank you, Mayor.
Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off on this letter submitted to Mike from Sustainable Maryland. And I do want to thank each of the council members, Jessic, Tarlo, and Sophus, for making sure they added their name individually as well. And so am I. So that way this letter has full support. And by the emails being answered, it looks like even more cities might be adding themselves to the list of even from last year. So it has a lot of support all across. All right, perfect. Moving on to the next item. Okay. Item number 8, review of the status of the committees. Mayor and council will discuss the status of the committees. There is 10 minutes allocated to this item. Be aware that it is 9:01 p.m. at this time. All right, Jimmy, go ahead.
I was just thought that if maybe something we could ask the city clerk where we have vacancies or where we committees don't really have anybody on committees, that we actually put an announcement to the community about needing members for committees. I know May and I had a conversation about the CERT team where there's actually no committees, and I agreed to be liaison, but I didn't kind of sign up to be to recruit people for it. And maybe we could actually look at which committees need vacancies, and we also have to add the police advisory board as a committee that would, that we actually sent out a notice to the community about committees that we need people on. That's basically my I know soon we'll be getting a new council member to reassess who the liaison are, but there are a number of committees that we don't really have. We need people on. So my ask is that maybe we ask the city clerk to review this, and where there are people we need that we add, we do a announcement to the community.
So the only thing I would change, Jimmy, because we cannot ask the city clerk to do something, we have to ask Mr. Kamali to appoint somebody in his team, because that's what he'll do.
That's
so
what I
Mr.
meant.
Kamali will appoint somebody in his team to go through his list. But I definitely will
Sorry,
ask
Mr.
the
Kamali.
council. I definitely will ask the council, since we are working with these committees. Also for us, we are the best persons to reach out to our committee and find out if there's any open seats. Right now, I will at least tell you, the Arts Commission the city has put an announcement to recruit 2 commissioners for the Arts Commission. And in my end, I'll tell you this, the memo needs to be sent out. And I will work with Mr. Kamali on this, not a problem. Because it seems like we need to organize a little bit the committees, because some of the committees are, followed through where, people apply through us. There's an appointment, they know for how long they've been appointed to, and we put a call out. Some people are doing their own internal appointments. So what I realized is some people are in committees and we don't even know they're part of the committee. And that's the reason why now it's in the webpage, people submit their resumes, they submit their information, and we're keeping track of who is part of the committees to make it a lot easier for all of us to know if there's an opening, for people to be appointed publicly, so that way the community also knows that these are the people that are voting and making decisions in this committee, because it is city funding and it's supposed to be open meetings, and they're supposed to know who's in those meetings. Regardless of whether the committee decides to attend to those meetings, all the committee meetings need to be open, unless it's something specifically, let's say the board of elections need to meet to discuss an internal thing regarding the elections. That's a different story, right? But even then, it's they have to put an agenda out and various things, as an example. So do we know, based on the committees that we support, that there's any openings that the city needs to put information out to recruit? So I'll pass the mic over to Jared and then Luke. Jared?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I think it would be very helpful, Mr. Kamali, if we had a kind of full survey and list. And then as Selena mentioned, some of these committees have, my understanding is have different structures. Some of them have formal appointment processes, and some of them are ones where folks just, step up to volunteer, and it's not entirely, the ones that I'm involved with, like MEGC, obviously I'm very clear on how that one is set up, but some of the other ones, it would be helpful for me to understand as a relatively new elected on how they're structured, and again, who's currently on them, especially after our solicitation process. I know we've had open-ended solicitations for committee members, and having a hard time, I think, with some of these remembering exactly who is on what. So, thank you.
Teacher Luke.
I don't have anything more here.
I think you said you have nothing else more here. It's under
Can't hear you, Mayor.
I said it sounded all mumbly when Luke said it. I was trying to figure out what he said, but I think he said like he's good.
Yep.
So we're gonna have to like.
We can't hear you.
Can you
Sorry.
hear me now?
No, Selena, you sound really teeny.
Man, WebEx hates me because I'm like in the same exact position. Hold on, I did something for WebEx. Give me a second. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Perfect.
Oh, yeah, this is why I have my computer backup because after a certain point, WebEx like goes after me and I can hear anything. So I said, I think I heard Luke said that he's good. So we're gonna go through each one of them and figure out what the resolutions that created them are. So that way we're in compliance. Something that we had talked about with the committees is like at least one person needs to do the Open Meetings Act, right? Because we're like all over the place and agendas and minutes need to be submitted so that way we know like what's going on with them overall. But it's just not us, it's like the whole community. Because we have had questions about how funding is approved, allocated, who's involved on it. And some of this committee definitely have a little more money than others, right? So we know we need to put a call out to former and new CERT members, right? They need every single position of the board because there's nobody there. The Arts Commission is already 2 positions, correct, Luke? 2 positions are out right now for people to join, and I think that it should just be standard for us to bring them in and have them be appointed, so that way there's a record who's there. Because at this point, I do feel like most of them, most of the committees, people have been appointed to, and we have switched to start appointing people for that specific reason. The Board of Election, obviously everybody's appointed. MUTC, Design Review Board, the Tree Commission, the Arts Commission. Luke, am I missing one? Another one that might be appointed. The CERT Committee is also appointed. So basically on it, including the Rec Committee is also appointed because I know we have appointed people there before. It's just a matter of getting through. So, Mr. Kamal, if you could work with your team, I could support anything you need when it comes to putting a call out for the CERT Committee. And then whatever other committee we're working on, if you guys could ask, if you guys could get Mr. Kamali and his team a list of who the members are and how long are they, that will help to try to get, at least some of the spaces filled. And if you already know like one person's no longer there, and you go update it, then update it. But it's going to take a teamwork. And then once we have it all team connected, it might be easier for, the staff to do it. But at the minimum, we need to like provide like the chair's email address so they could follow through with it. So I would need council to be able to do that. And if you see your list is fine, just write an email, be like the Arts Commission, you got all the information correct. That's an example. And we're waiting for the 2 positions to appoint, right? So that's where we're at with that. Is there anything else you guys want to cover besides that?
Just the green team doesn't have anybody listed. I don't know, maybe that's they're probably
That's
more than
Sarah,
that.
and they're appointed.
Yeah, I think only the chair is appointed of that. And it's Sarah Lifesey is the chair of the green team.
Yes.
But if there are other members, it'd be nice if we had them listed.
Yeah, and I think that we need to figure out what the resolution is to create it, because between who's appointed and who's not, I think it just makes it easier so that way we could connect, But Sarah is the green team chair. And she was appointed. See, this is not the last one because Sarah was actually appointed not that long ago.
2018.
I think she was reappointed though in 2020 or 2021, one of those 2.
Correct, because I think it's a 2-year term. So she was reappointed again. So 18, 19, 20. So she'll have been like 20 or 21. Yeah. So we could ask, I mean, we could look at, we could do a search if we want to ask Sarah, maybe she knows. But yeah, Sarah was reappointed Pat recently, within the last year or so.
Mayor, can you see the information regarding the green team on the table that we created?
It just says Sarah Lifley, appointment December 2018, 2-year term.
So basically, we use the same format that was before, and I appreciate, because you guys are just asking us to put this together now, and we'll do it. But these are the table that we created with Melissa last week, and there are some vacant position for the council members because the staff that we have as a liaison, like, Rocio is the liaison for the green team and the tree commission.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate your direction on that, and we're going to update this list the way that you guys want it, but we were just using the last format that was available in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Kamali. So that's what I'm asking the council to be able to help you provide some information, even if it's like let's say like for, as an example. Yeah, so I said, do an example for the green team. If we could provide Sarah's information list, we have it, and then Sarah could list all the different members that we have for that committee, so that way they're listed. And even if it's a 2-year term or whatever term it is for them, we need to start working on appointments, so that way at least we have this information, because for most of the people, we don't even have an emergency form whatsoever. So it's like very little information we have with quite a few of them, and even some of the ones that are appointed. It's the new process that we have adopted, I believe, in the last since of maybe the middle of last year, after May, has been like people signing up, or a little before May, people have been signing up to when the city puts a call out through our website, submitting resumes, submitting like basic information, so the city at least has that basic information. And then whatever requirement they meet, some of them need financial disclosures, and that has been addressed. Some of them don't, so depending on what the committee is, so that we're trying to make sure is sticking to the things that we need from them as well. All right, so I would say council, go through the list, and if you have that specific item, Mr. Kamal, can you do me a favor? Can you team create a Google Docs and just send it to us, so that way like the council could fill in the gaps?
Melissa is gonna do that.
Perfect. So so that way we could fill in the gaps that we need, including like the email for the chair, and that way like Melissa, as Mr. Kamali stated, like could follow up with them and get the information. And on your end, Mr. Kamali, Melissa, if you're not getting any answer from the chairs, reach out to us, because we are their liaisons as well, right? So that way we could help you guys get this information moving forward.
All right, okay. Thank you.
But I think that the first one, I would be like the CERT committee for calling the former members if they would like to join as part of the CERT committee, and calling in new members, because we definitely, especially during emergencies, the food distribution, things like that, the CERT team will have been key, like they have been in the past, to be able to support us in a lot of these things. So I feel like it's definitely
Anybody have a list? I'll reach out if somebody could send me the only one I know is Jack and his wife.
Jack and Nikki were chair and secretary, I believe. Yeah. So Jack will be like the best person to reach out.
Okay.
And find out if he could like connect you with because they have, what, and I think about it, they had a listserv for the CERT team. So maybe like you could like connect with them, so that way you could like, motivate them to like have a meeting, and then ideally pick a board. We get them appointed as a board, and then move forward from there. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else you want us to discuss in this point, Jimmy? Okay. All right. So we're gonna be moving on to the next item. Charter Review Commission. Mayor and Council will have a discussion on the Charter Review Commission. Jimmy, you put this item on the agenda?
Sure. Just maybe a preliminary discussion, but I know there had been discussions since when I was on council about like at some point getting a committee to look at the whole charter
there's no rush on this, but over the next 2 years, there are a lot of outdated stuff in the charter, and getting a kind of a citizen committee to review it and maybe over the next year come up with where things have to be changed would be, I think, something, we should do. So I don't know if it needs a resolution, or, I mean, this is for discussion here. People think it's a good idea and how we would do it. Maybe it doesn't, maybe a deadline for over the next 12 months, and then maybe, by 2023, we'd have some recommendations and things that have to be changed.
Okay. Thank you, Jimmy. Luke, Jared? Jared, I see you raising your hand because I'm...
All right.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Luke.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Luke.
Nope. Go ahead, Jared.
Go ahead, Jared.
No, thanks, Jimmy, for bringing this. Typically on something like this, we would want to, and having not done a charter review before, I would assume that we want to bring in some outside external support on this, correct? To get an understanding of, what is in our charter, what is outdated, and someone to help, I guess, compare across, what is, I guess, state of the art, if you will, or in similar charters of similar cities, of our structure, what's outdated, what needs to be updated, and to, not make recommendations independent of the community to help sort of guide that discussion. I certainly can see how a community input on this is going to be very important, but I am kind of wondering, some of the, what is the best practices, what is the right structure, some of those things. I think it might be difficult to have those be answered by citizen volunteers. But if you all have another opinion on that, please let me know.
Thank you, Jared. I'll pass over the mic to Luke, and I do have some historical information on that kind of leans towards where the comment you made. And so yeah, Luke, go ahead.
No, I'd prefer to hear that conversation. Thank you, Mayor.
So I would say, from my recollection, right, even being before, so yes, this conversation on and on has been having it. But what I recall while being in council, it's we were thinking of doing an exploratory committee to get to this charter committee that will discuss when it comes to the hiring of somebody to be able to lead us through what you're talking about, Jerry, right? What's outdated, what is not, in order for us to move forward. One, to explore if this is where the route we want to take before we even say, here, commissioners, go and figure out what the charter looks like, figure out what the process we're taking in reviewing it, hiring versus not. And at the same time, what specifically are we aiming at the chart? If it's the whole complete chart, it's going to be an elongated process. Because right now, my understanding is the next part that people were looking into was the whole election. As you guys opened the door, right? The whole election piece, because the Board of Election wanted to make some of the suggestions that we made last year, right? But historical base, yeah, do you need an exploratory committee to get you to figure out what it looks like, or we could do it, when it comes to hiring, when it comes to comparing, and all the stuff before we start getting our hands all over the charter, and because it is the constitution of the city. And that's what's always made the community and various people very nervous of people just going in and making changes without knowing what the process is. And there are experts in this field to take care of this, that could guide the process and let us know what's updated or not, that, could allow us to be able to make some of the immediate changes, and some of them that might need a lot more discussion and work through the community and create not just a timeline, but a whole entire plan when it comes to outreach, when it comes to information, when it comes to open meetings to discuss this, right? So that's the first step that needs to be made even before we get 4 people to start reviewing the charter. at least that's my take on what historically has been discussed. Go ahead, Luke, you said you wanted to way after me, so go ahead.
No, that makes sense. I just kind of want to listen to everybody then on what they think is the best path forward here for getting this up and running from a timing perspective, and yeah.
Okay, Jimmy, you have your hand up.
I mean, what you say makes sense. So is your proposal that we have a committee to just kind of outline what are the things that need to be done to do this? And if so, how should we go about to do this? I don't disagree with anything you said, but just like to get the ball rolling, as they say.
And I'll tell you this, I'm kind of waiting for this poor person to join us, because I feel like the more stuff we like, big stuff like this, like we do, is like we're continuing to exclude him and him or her, right? Or them, right? And I definitely, I want us to lay it out and not, I mean, at this point, we need to have a meeting just to discuss like what an exploration committee would look like, and what do we as council, mayor and council, are aiming at trying to get, because this is definitely a committee that we need a lot of work on. Even trying to figure out, like, I mean, we're kind of looking at each other like we should have this, but it seems like we need work to try to get us there. Is this going to be something that's going to be solved in the next month? Probably not. So I think we could have another meeting with maybe more information or more guidance or more or just make it a standalone meeting, so that we could bring the various methods that had been used, and it gives us time to also talk to our colleagues like across the various MML realms to figure out how they have addressed this issue, not just calling MML, but actually talking to our colleagues that are going through this right now.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Luke.
Jimmy, I know you have a good relationship with folks there at MML. I wonder if it would make sense for you to reach out and see if they have a model way of reviewing commissions and timelines.
I mean, so
Yeah, I
Mayor
could
also
go
has
ahead.
very good relations with the MML, but there is a resource person, I don't know, Mayor Jim Peck, who is
Yeah, I
like
know Jim.
part-time. He might be a good resource person to invite him, maybe even to come to a work session to talk about, but he kind of,
Yeah.
he's half retired, but he kind of maybe could go over.
Yeah, I met Jim a couple times. I think the next big conference for all of us is like in the summer, right? Because I definitely want us, I mean, he come in and talk to us and stuff like that, but also want us to go out and also talk to our various colleagues that are working with this, right? Because one thing is here like the overview information, and one is to hear like the foots in the ground and the work that they're doing and how they're dealing with it. The challenges they be able to find to be able to make the proper answer when it comes to us. It's not a cookie cutter effort, but I definitely will reach out to MML, to Jim specifically, if that's what needs to be, or like, a few of the other ones that I know, or to get some guidance, and we could review the information and figure out what it looks like for us,
I
think that's kind of where I'm at with that. And if you're talking, raise your hand, because I could my eyes are tired, guys. Luke, go ahead.
My recommendation would just be to, instead of reaching out and getting information, I like Jimmy's idea of just seeing if Jim could come to one of our work sessions and talk us through what that looks like. And I know you offered to reach out, but I don't know if Jimmy has a relationship with Jim that he might be able to tap into here.
The mayor could, one of us.
Yeah, whoever wants to, yeah.
Yeah, I could reach out to him. I know him for a couple of years now. Because I'm like, I've been highly involved, and I know Jimmy does. So it does not, so I'll reach out to him and figure out like, what his schedule looks like, and if he could join us, and what's the purpose of joining us,
Okay.
So we could start this conversation moving forward. Okay. Anything else, Council? Okay, seeing that there is nothing else to add, let's move on to my favorite topic in the whole entire world. Review of the rolling agenda items. The mayor and council will review the rolling agenda items. Okay, Jimmy, you put this on the agenda? Go ahead.
I'm willing to make it a work thing the way everyone could go back and look over the for the next session, maybe if something, should be soon, not have to do it anymore, or and then we come back. Maybe people make recommendations rather than trying to do it now. It's late. I already got one thing, 2 of my 3 things I had discussed, so I'd agree to table that if people would look at the item that I don't know, the city manager to look at some of the items on the agenda, on the rolling agenda, and see if these are things that we still have to, talk about and maybe, not. Do you have Melissa, could you go down to this rolling agenda, possibly share the screen with it?
Melissa, can you, thank you, Melissa.
It's the next few pages, yeah. So, and there's a lot of things on there, then some of them are not, that important anymore. And maybe the city manager would want to look over them and see.
I will say, Jimmy, that make this into a Google Docs, whoever has access to this, and share it with it, and everybody looks through what has their name on it.
That'd be good.
And update it. And if anything else that has somebody else's name that's no longer here, we'll evaluate as a team to figure out what it looks like. But the Civic Center funding, that's mainly Mr. Kamali, right? And then, because he's the next part is to basically looks like the same, right? Of the community, the Potts Hall Community Center, right? And then keep going through it because half of these people are no longer here. Right. So make it into a Google Doc. And the rolling agenda has always been one of those things that we put things there and then we come back to them. And it's been very much like your personal responsibility. If your name is there to follow up with it, and we will update it, and put it up in the agenda. At times what we've done is also put the month where we want to more or less review it so that we're not overwhelmed, because some of these meetings are a lot longer they need to be. And I think that if people knew it'll be reviewed, let's say March, we wouldn't be rushing to try to get to the agenda item on stuff that we have sometimes half information in and half information out. But
right, that was the reason I suggested it. Sounds good.
Okay. Luke, Jared, yes, let's go. Bounce of joy.
I'm good with bouncing this around to the city manager and to all of us to see what needs to be done here to update it, and we could just do that Google document and I'll edit.
Yep, likewise.
Perfect. And then we could bring an updated version up. And if we need to, there's at this point of discussion on something, we could bring it up. But right now, I think changing the names from A and B, it's just going to be a lot of tasks that we could do over an email. Because no decisions are taken. This is just who's taking lead on the various things. Okay? All right. So if there's nothing else to discuss on this point, can we move on to the next item agenda? Item number 11.
You can make Dollar Tree friends
All right, thank you so much, Melissa. This is item number 11, update on USPS lack of mail delivery. And this is my beautiful update. So, I'm not gonna say everybody knows this, but we are experiencing lack of mail delivery in the city of Mount Rainier, like many other cities, including DC. This has been affecting our residents predominantly for the last 3.5-ish weeks. at least I'll tell you guys, the first notice I even became aware was because Rainier Manor was not having their mail delivered. We managed to solve that once and solve it one more time, right, with the help of Senator Carter's office, and then later on with the help of Congressman Brown. And then we found out there was mail missing, direct deliveries not around, and a bunch of stuff. As for my update, some of the residents have reported that some mail has been coming in. Some people have gotten like 2-3 weeks worth, but there's still a lot of people that have not received any mail, or they have received email from like this week or like the last 2 days, but nothing backtracked it. So I'm in constant communication with both Senator Carter's team and U.S. Representative Brown. Sometimes 3 or 4 times a day, various emails going back and forward, and the community has been very great at answering and sending emails. So if you're still having like mail problems, please send me an email at Mayor Benitez at MountRainierMD.org. It is important for you guys to let me know that this is happening, not just send it out to your representatives, because as a city, we're trying to keep track of what's happening. So if it continues happening in the year, we have a track of you reporting it once or reporting it again. So if you did send an email to them, just send me a note that says, hey, here's my address. I went ahead and send it out. So that way we could add you to an Excel sheet, and that way we could focus on your issues. Some of the issues are more broader than others. Some are just like, I haven't gotten mail. Some people are more specific, like this is my tracking number and I haven't gotten my medicine. The worst case scenario that we faced was one of our residents needed her medication. She was down to last 2 pills, and the medication hadn't come. We managed to make sure her medication got there the next day right on time, but we have asked of that, that specific individuals, like if they place another order, as soon as they place it, to let us know. And if usually prior to like this last 3 weeks, it was arriving 3 to 4 days later. If within those 3 or 4 days later, it's not arrived, to like contact us right away, so that we're not put into like an emergency situation. So right now the offices of Carding and Brown are both working on figuring out what the short, long term, and what has specifically happened, so it won't happen again. But we're definitely asking the community to like communicate with us so that we keep track of what's going on. So saying that, more mail has been coming in. I am hearing post service persons have been moved from various cities to make sure to address the problem. We were very fortunate in the south side. We have Dave, so we were not affected, nowhere nearly the same way the other parts of the city were. But I would say if something like this happened, you need to let us know, because just because it doesn't happen to me doesn't mean it's not important to the rest of the community to make sure this is happening. So on my weekly call with Rainier Manor, the mail has returned to see them like every single day and bring mail in. So that's been already a success, and so have residents. So that's my very small update. In the next meeting, I'll update you guys if more information is coming through. And a big thank you to both Senator Carter's team, who has been working with this quite a bit of time with me, and also U.S. Rep Brown. So if you guys want to add anything else to this, let us know. Send me an email, reach out to your council members, but let us know that this is continuing, and we'll continue keeping track of it. So that is my update on the UPS situation. Jimmy, Jared, Luke, anything? Raise your hand. That was a fake raising hand, Jared. Luke, go ahead.
I would just say thank you for taking this on, Mayor.
Yeah, it's thank you so much, Luke. Yeah, it's quite a bit a lot, but we're working right through it. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that, Selena. I did raise my hand. Thank you for your leadership in pulling this together. And I just want to, I've been directing residents to email you as well, where I see it, if I get feedback, or also on the listserv or Facebook group. And then, folks have been submitting feedback directly to Congressman Brown as well. They should continue to do that as well. Does that amplify, or does that confuse kind of the coordination work?
You know what? what we were able to realize, after like scanning through all the emails, like the 3 or 4 different items that they needed to tackle, some of them are not like per se a one person thing. Like I don't receive mail for 3 weeks and my whole entire 5 blocks is not receiving, right? So that is not one item specific. The other people were like informed direct that if we're looking at the information that they're supposed to be getting didn't receive. That's a separate issue. But you also had the people that had UPS confirming codes of information that was supposed to be received and that didn't. So at least what allowed for us to do is like clean the data and be able to present the information to the teams for Senator Carty and Congressman Brown. So that way they knew what the 3 or 4 different items they needed to tackle. So I would say if it's a specific item beyond like, I'm just not getting mail that nobody else is getting, that's more impacting. But the thing is like, if you had 100 emails saying I'm just not getting email, it works. But I will make sure that people that are having a specific problem send it to them, but also send it to me, because that also keeps track of where in the city we're being affected. Because we want to do is like a lot of times when they send it to the senators, they don't send it to us, so we don't know that how big impacting the problem is. So I might be like in our record for the city, might be like this block is receiving mail, we're fine. Let's push to focus on these 3 blocks because they haven't gotten anything. And that's where it's at. So I would say, you could send it to them. They're already working. We're also going to need some time to get it adjusted. They're moving as fast as they can, USPS. But the reality is like COVID and people being out sick has definitely affected them. Prior to that, they had a lot of people retirement, not the same number of people like trying to get rehired or trying to get hired should be the specific word. And that has also caused a lot of problem. And it's like this one, like what we're trying to figure out, like give the information to the postal office, like for them to try to identify what route was being more highly affected, if any, than others. So that way they could respond. So I would say you could keep sending it to them. Also, like, as the UPS, so every week I'm checking in with them. Like I said, constantly, sometimes daily. But specifically once a week, we're addressing to see if there's been a change, a mail being delivered. And it's easy for me to advocate for the residents if I know where the areas are at, if there's a specific issue to tackle. So, continue sending it. Senator Brown has been highly involved in his team. That's the one that I talk to even more times a day. But in short question, it helps make it a specific, like, I have not received mails for the last 3 weeks. If you have Informed Direct has shown me that I have this stuff and sent the screenshots, right? And it hasn't come. I'm getting notices of things being delivered and it hasn't been delivered. I'm getting notices of blockage of package and here's the photo that shows nothing is that. And here's where it's at. But if it's not as specific, you're just saying you're not getting mail. And sometimes people say they're not getting mail after 2 days. And some people have been seriously affected not getting mail for 6 days. But if it's something urgent, like you need to be getting your medication, get it to me as soon as possible, because by the time they come through 100 emails that people might send them, we need to be able to flag that up like immediately. So that might be the urgency of it. So that was just not like in the 1,000 emails that might just read the heading, I'm not getting mail, right? They will open and go through them, but especially in emergency cases, like get to me so that way I could put it in front of the stack, because it becomes a matter of life and death and like mental and physical health. If this is something that you definitely need to get your hands on, like medication or money to be able to pay your rent that you're expecting payments from, that might be different than I haven't gotten bulk milk like in 3 weeks, right? But I've gotten everything else. So it does make a difference in that sense. And the centers have been very good at like either sending information or providing on it. So that's the only thing I would say. High levels of cases, send it to me as well so I could flag it up. Because if not, by the time they read through your 100 emails that they might be receiving about not this subject, but multiple other subjects, your email might be like caught in the process of being read. And the urgency might not be there. Jimmy? You're mute.
I have nothing to add.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Jimmy. All right, moving on to item number 12. And I see Jared being happy to wait until the last minute, right? Discussion in outdoor fire pits. Mayor and Council will have a discussion in outdoor fire pits. Jared, the floor is yours. And it is
Yep.
9:41. I'll make sure we do a time check. Go ahead.
I'll be quick. So back earlier this year, we had this discussion about outdoor fire pits, and the discussion centered around a couple things. One was that folks in the city have typically, for backyard gatherings and other like events, had typically sometimes had a backyard fire and a fire pit in a area within their backyard, and in particular, this was of increased interest during Omicron. There was chat on listserv, and a number of residents asked about this because folks saw gathering outdoors as one of the few ways to gather safely during last year during COVID, and unfortunately, we're in the same dynamic again for another winter. So, and our policy on this is substantially tighter. I mean, it basically it's basically as written, city code prohibits an outdoor fires and public spaces or on private. So what I did was I pulled together some language to do a couple things. One was to give city currently, and this has come up before, to my understanding, that we've, if we wanted to have a fire in a public space, our city code currently prohibits that, as in like a city-owned property. And the second is that currently within two sections, Section 6 and Section 10, the current language essentially expressly prohibits basically having any fire, and it presents it in like two different ways. So what I did, pulling together some language and that I've submitted to Alma and Mr. Kamali, was to basically to allow the city, allow mayor and council to approve, if so needed, a specific event location for like an outdoor event, which is currently prohibited on city property. And then secondly, to basically defer to the county's guidance not defer to the county's guidance, but basically incorporate the county's guidance. And what my proposal was to just incorporate that language rather than referring it to by reference, which places, I believe, reasonable bounds on what you can burn, the distance it needs to be from the house, and so forth. So I don't know if any of you have any comment. I can certainly pull up the draft language, the draft guidance from the Prince George's County, or not quite sure the right way to do this. Feedback from you folks or feedback from Alma.
I'm gonna open up the floor. DBWT usually has done, so we usually go to staff, get feedback from them, and they will present it to us. So that way we don't have like a billion questions have been addressed prior to us seeing it. But Luke, go ahead.
Jared, I just appreciate you taking this on, and I support it. It's I've got a bunch of wood sitting out back, including my old Christmas tree that I'm gonna burn. So appreciate you taking this on. Thank you.
All right, Jimmy.
What's your action point, Jared? You're going to send it to Alma. What are you suggesting next step? I don't have any supportive.
I have draft language that I pulled together incorporating all those points, which I have transmitted to Mr. Kamali and Alma. And I'm sorry if I, doing this the first time, misunderstood that I bring it to council, bring it to work session for discussion, and then have feedback from staff.
So I mean, I'm supportive. I'd suggest at the staff, you actually bring back a resolution for the work session, we can then, look over and then bring it to the legislative session, if that makes sense to you.
Okay. I do have draft legislative language that I sent. I apologize. I didn't realize that wasn't included in the.
Okay, maybe it is.
Yeah. My apologies, guys.
So I will, it's up to you, but I think that it would definitely help for staff to review it, for you to bring it up to the next meeting if you want. For us to read through it specifically what you're suggesting and what it means and the impact or not it's going to have. So I want to make something clear.
Yep.
Councilmember Stolfes is not saying that all outdoor fire pits will be banned, because I got a couple questions on it. That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is like, make sure that, we're all in the same boat, basically. And that way we all have fun. I do see Alma here. Alma, do you have any feedback on the documents that Jared sent?
I actually have reviewed and read the documents that he sent, and thank you very much for actually taking upon yourself to do all this. I know that we've been going back and forth regarding this matter, and I have definitely seen every point that's kind of like a concern, I would say, in the past about fire pits and all. But I think in this new document, he does cover everything that can be a concern to residents or even to mayor and council. So if you definitely read it, you'll understand it. I did myself, and I have gone over information from Prince George's County as well. And I have talked directly to the fire department and asked questions. So definitely, thank you so much, Councilmember Stolfes, and taking this. And I'm pretty much sure that our residents would love that.
So there you go, Jared. You jump over that hoop, and having Alma's golden seal of approval, it's a lot. She doesn't always gives it like that. But do you have the document here, Jared? Do you want to walk us through what it is, or do you want to wait for a different meeting? Because if you have the document and staff already looked at it and they talked to the fire department and it looks like it's a clear shot, it'll be easier for us to at least see it and review it. And that way we could potentially, if the council decides, vote on the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. How beautiful, Jared.
Well, I tried to get it right. Sorry if I procedurally didn't quite.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically, this is just referring to the city's, the first paragraph here is referring to the city's right to pass legislation, regulations relating to health and safety. This next section is the two sections, Chapter 6, Health and Nuisances, and Chapter 10, Peace and Order, where there's information on outdoor burning of combustible materials. It's in Chapter 6 and Chapter 10. And this is the section where it states the code basically does not allow residents to engage in certain outdoor burning activities as permitted by Prince George's County. So what this next section here is actually combining the two sections, Section 6 and Section 10, which are both refer to outdoor burning, but are not and both kind of prohibit it in worded a slightly different way. And then basically, here's the section that would basically alter Section 6, open burning. And it starts off by prohibiting the things that you can burn, except within stoves or furnaces, etc. This section B is the city could, upon application of form provided, the city grant a permit to burn appropriate material in or on a private property. This would cover the dynamic we have with, like, we have a city event committee wants to, we have some need to have some outdoor fire pit or something at a city sponsored event. This would allow the city to permit it, but would require approval from the city first. And then here's the section that just basically, this is basically pulls from the county's guidance. And the county has a code that basically goes through and says what you can and what you can't do. And we would basically be adopting that language directly. Let me up the counties there, because I think this is much, much easier to read. This is the county's, like, the county basically put together a guide that, and this is what it is right here. They basically put a one-pager that, like, it basically explained their recreational fire ordinance. So you can have one. It has to be attended by someone 18 years or older. It can't be left smoldering. You must have something to extinguish it. Only dry natural wood can be burned. It's prohibited during drought conditions, strong winds, or air pollution events. Thick smoke, visible smoke that steadily crosses property lines are prohibited. Fires must be 30 feet from any structure. Fires are not allowed on a balcony or deck. For any of these portable fire pits must be 30 feet from any structure, not on any balcony or deck, not on any road, sidewalk, or public way. And then there's also county guidance on propane-fueled fire pits, which folks also have as well. So basically, you know, I think the county actually did, as I was saying to Alma, the county did actually a pretty good job of, you know, creating a, you know, saying, hey, this is something we know is going to happen, but setting bounds that I think are reasonable and you know, appropriate to follow. And that, you know, if right now, you know, people have fire pits, you know, and there's no standards, there's no safety standards, there's no guidance that we give. And folks are doing it even though technically it's prohibited. So I think having more clear guidance, you know, permitting something that is already permitted and is actually a huge benefit in terms of Omicron would be ideal. So anyways, that is what I had put together.
Thank you. Can you go back to the agenda? Thank you, Jared, for putting this together. Thank you, Alma, for the feedback as well on it. I will say the part I didn't see in it, and I apologize because definitely this is discussion. So let's make sure we do not, for the next agenda item, let's make sure we put the resolution number on it. Or so that way it's like identify as like this is a resolution that we're discussing. So that way, like if people have any feedback on it, is there. The other thing I was gonna say, maybe I missed it, Jared, or I need some guidance on this. So here are the rules. Once we like adopt them, this is gonna be the rule of the law. What are the penalties if somebody goes outside these rules, and how is that gonna be handled? So it might be maybe a question for you or Alma, whichever. Is that listed on the resolution, or is there something in the city that's
actually
that?
Yeah, that's actually a question I would have for Alma. What penalty do we currently impose if we were to cite someone for this?
So the penalty that would be imposed is under, it would be the same, chapter 6, if I'm not mistaken, 6 and 10. And it's really not, I think it's $100, the most that you can actually, fine, but I can double check into it, to make sure.
So Jared, may I ask for that, not necessarily the amount, you need to put the amount on it, but put a reference to, you know, like either the schedule fees or whatever it is, like the title where they could find in case a penalty, like, you know, it will remain blah, 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 right? Because I like to make sure people are clear on it and that this is where it's at, but don't put the amount, because then if we have to change it in one place, then we have to redo a bunch of stuff. So we have decided to be like, according to code, like I'm gonna say number 6 of this chapter of the schedule of fees, this is where it'll be listed. And I will definitely ask for it to be scheduled, you know, added to the schedule of fees. So that way people more or less know, like, you know, this is, you know, that is upfront. Like, look, this is what we're asking you is very easily, and for the safety of the whole community, right? Because fires are no joke.
Great.
And we have a lot of very beautiful historical homes and we love green. So I don't want to make sure that we destroy our neighborhood with something so simple like gender reveals have like set up a whole entire forest in California, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like far-fetched for something like this to happen. So if I will at least ask if that connection be put in the resolution just to address it, where they could find it or something along those topics.
Yep.
So that way we cover it. The other thing is like I think on one of your points is say like this is where it's at. Make sure it's clear like that's where it currently stands. So that way there I know that once with this resolution happening, like it will no longer be the case, right?
Okay.
And so that'd be one of the things. So I would say this is up for. I mean, you could bring it up for a next work session with like the various points lined up and cleaned up, and we could move it forward for the next step. I mean,
Okay.
that's my take at least, right? Jimmy and Luke, where you guys are at? Guys, I don't
fine.
see you guys. You're fine. Thank you, Jimmy. Go ahead. Jimmy, I'm not sure if I cut you off or not.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Luke.
I'm good.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Jared, for all the information. Thank you, Alma, as well, for staying up this late.
I know. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next time we might have to move staff a little bit to the front so that way we could let them go because I know they've been working a lot. So thank you, Alma. All right, so we're gonna be moving on to item number 3. Melissa, is that you? Oh, Alma, you're welcome. All right, number 13, presentation on December 21st, 2021 work session special legislative meeting and January 4, 2022 legislative minutes. Like I said before, Melissa has done a beautiful job at keeping us up. I mean, this has been the most on track we have been with minutes. Literally, the meeting like turns around and she has the minutes ready, right? Council, if you guys approve, hold on, Jimmy. If you guys approve, I'd like a motion on the floor to submit any revisions that you have for Melissa. To Melissa, ideally by Tuesday of next week, so that way this minutes go up on the voting block for February. Okay.
So moved.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Second.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second. Any objection? Abstentions? There is none. Melissa, thank you so much for your work. Council will be emailing you if they read something that needs to be edited. Okay? All right, perfect, Melissa. Moving on to item number 14. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any objections? Any abstentions? All right. So unanimously, this meeting has come to an end at 9:59 p.m. Good job, everybody. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you
everyone.
guys so much.
Bye,
And I will
everybody.
good night. So I'll take just a quick moment of privilege. The city has put information out where through the initiative of the Biden administration initiative, you could get 4 free COVID-19 tests delivered to your homes. So check out the social medias for the city or or even mine where the information's there so you guys could get your free 4 COVID-19 tests delivered by the United States Postal Service. So we'll see how that works, but at least the initiative is moving forward. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Bye.